In this world, there is one thing that matters more than all others, and that is to worship the Emperor. The blessings of the earth all owe themselves to the praises of the heavens, whom is common sense that everyone should worship. Joining the blessing to the praises, there were people who fought for this cause. One of these men, holding his axe, shouts to worship the Emperor while participating in a deadly fight. However, his axe breaks, and inevitably, he suffers the damage of a fatal attack that shatters him completely. The ones responsible for this were other knights, those from the hand-picked group by the Emperor. To cut the explanation short, this task force is called Special Forces and focuses on only one reason for its existence. For the important task of protecting the powerful Emperor Leon Catalan, these forces were created. However, amidst bodies, war, flames, a man claims that this is nonsense. In front of the kingdom, the same man states that he will kill the Emperor, and his identity is revealed as the commander of the Special Forces, Yan. Faced with the commander's plans, some soldiers try to intervene, starting to crawl on the ground. Like real zombies, they rise, saying words like kill and worship. In this case, Yan becomes enraged, realizing that the soldiers cannot be free even after becoming corpses. Then the bodies of the warriors begin to merge, forming something larger like a megazord, and the man is determined to free them from this suffering. With the transformation complete, the corpse only continues to say simple manipulated words. And as his instinct commanded at that moment, attacking the traitor was the only option, but the commander was no unskilled fool. In contrast to the battle, the kingdom was in flames completely, and in one of the rooms, a fairy is frightened and questioned about the disturbance outside. In response, Emperor Leon consoles the fairy, telling her not to worry about such trivial matters. And finally, in front of his former comrade, the Emperor claims not to understand the reason for all this. It is said that the commander was the most interesting among all, but now he has revolted. Unlike the man he was in the past, Yan is now determined to kill the Emperor at any cost. Leon, for his part, questions how long it's been since the warrior became a commander, saying he remembers the day he recruited him. A special forces training hall, which was called the Pit of Solitude, was where a slave soldier like him rose to the position of commander. Yan achieved everything with his own hands. In this case, the Emperor asks if he is dissatisfied with something. In his response, the man only murmurs what was said in his mind while removing a blade that was piercing him. With the blade in his hands, the commander sticks it in his ear, removing a bug that had been placed in his head by Leon. Vasti demonstrates the hypocrisy of the Emperor who kept them as slaves. Extremely furious, Yan claims to have lost everything because he doesn't even have any memories. At this moment, he no longer knew who his family was, who he was, or anything about his life. Thus, the Emperor bites the fairy's head in a chaotic scene, tearing it off. And after that, he transforms her into a weapon that ends up piercing the commander's chest. Yan was not expecting this, thus realizing the mistake he made in letting a variable slip. Then the Emperor claims not to know how the commander noticed the bug, saying it is a shame for him. For Yan was definitely his favorite toy. With this, defeat began across the commander's mind, realizing that in the end it was all in vain. However, suddenly a voice starts calling him to wake up, so he actually wakes up not understanding what is happening. Yan saw his death before his eyes clearly, but apparently he was in a familiar place now. Upon closer analysis, the commander recognizes the great pillar in front of him, recalling it as the great stone sword from his past times. The great stone sword is the symbol of the Special Forces Training Hall, with countless soldiers having died in front of the symbol. Faced with this, Yan questions why his body had become smaller and why he was wearing the clothes from when he was just a recruit. Not understanding, as he verbalizes about this, someone tells him to shut up while appearing behind him. This man delivers a powerful blow to Yan, who barely manages to defend himself. In this case, the man warns the boy not to get distracted like this, and claims that he has nothing to be underestimated in this way. This is Roman, the 12th recruit of the Special Forces, and in this case, Yan finally manages to recall what's happening. With the boy lying next to a stone, Roman analyzes the situation, stating that he is just a common person. So Yan asks if they are in the middle of training, and the boy explains that the training is just an excuse, because he was planning to beat him up completely. After all, according to him, no one cares if a low-level recruit dies. In light of this, the commander thinks it is impossible what is happening. But when analyzing all the questions together, it becomes quite convincing. In this case, upon understanding that he has gone back to the past, the boy is filled with Machiavellian happiness. At this moment, Yan does not care about the reason he has returned. What matters is that he can start all over again. ensuring that this current self does not make the same mistakes as before, and this time making sure to decapitate the Emperor. Before anything else, the boy warns that will inform his colleague of something important, saying he will not have a girlfriend even at 40. Faced with this, Roman gets furious and charges at the commander, saying that he is talking nonsense. However, Yan easily dodges and comments that it is pathetic to have been hit by such a slow punch, which makes the man even more irritated. In this case, Roman activates his secret techniques like Deep Chaos of the 7th form and Fists of Fury, which in a way impresses his opponent. However, the hero claims he will give a tip regarding his colleague's strikes. Touching the tip of his fingers to the man's arm, he informs that after closing the distance with the opponent, the attack should be done this way. Thus, Yan uses Roman's Fist of Fury technique in the style of a half-inch punch, but with much greater force than the original. In this case, the boy despairs, questioning how Yan can use an intermediate-level skill. And just as he was about to finish something, it stops him. A pendant flies from his clothing, making the hero confused as he doesn't remember having something like that. Thus, having something better to do now, he decides to end it for today with Roman and comments that he is a lucky man. Upon further examination of the pendant, Yan realizes there is something inside. So the ex-commander opens the object's lid, finding an old photo. A photo of a man, a woman, and a younger version of himself, making it the first time Yan saw these faces. However, in his heart, they were already marked as his family, making him cry with emotion. Memories, love, and family are the words the hero forgot around 30 years ago, and that are now returning to his mind. What Yan could not obtain, even after burning the imperial capital, along with what he could not find, even after massacring the knights. All of this was being held in his hands at that exact moment, making him realize that he almost made the same mistake of his previous life. With his sanity returning, the ex-commander no longer wants to waste his life on something as pathetic as his simple revenge. Thus, Yan's objective changes to escaping this place and getting back the life with his family that he lost. Chapter 2. A special forces reporting directly to the Emperor are known as the Special Task Force, receiving missions such as the fall of Verna Fortress. And the assassination of the Grand Duke of the North are missions carried out by this squadron, which has been responsible for completing such tasks since the beginning of the Empire's history, along with the one who stood at the top of these forces developed. The commander of the task force, Yan, is known as the Emperor's right hand and the strongest of the knights. However, that body, with immense power and strength, was no longer Yan's reality. Receiving a job to clean the squadron's bathrooms, the hero realizes he has fallen into a deplorable state after regressing. In front of the stone sword, trainings rolled on normally among the Imperial Guard members. There are about 1,000 soldier apprentices in the Special Task Force, and there is where everyone becomes stronger by killing each other to survive. Approximately 3 or 4 people die per day, and these empty spots are filled either by kidnapping people or recruiting volunteers. The training location is the Dragon's Cave to the northwest of the Ranges Mountains, and this place is said to be a labyrinth. Soldier apprentices always receive a number to identify them. The numbers are assigned based on the soldier apprentice's skills. They can rise in rank through tests and competitions. Additionally, there is a pyramid system where the treatment receive changes depending on how high their number is, and this is used to keep the apprentices under control. Under such a system, it is difficult for soldier apprentices with a ranking below 900 to survive, as they can be easily replaced after their death. Normally, they are only used as labor or to help other people train, which is currently the case for the protagonist. In fact, he is lucky to be used as labor at the moment. Suddenly, someone bumps into him, causing the boxes he was carrying to fall to the ground. At that moment, ask if this person didn't have eyes to see where they were going. However, in pyramid like this, there was a soldier apprentice who stayed at the top among everyone. The one who bumped into the hero was one of these high-ranking soldier apprentices and a successor of the Empire's nobles. In the name of their loyalty to the Empire, to continue their family line, and to keep the other families under control. These are the reasons why the nobles would join the Special Task Force, and while they were there, the center would make their lives more comfortable. Moreover, unlike the others, parasites are not implanted in them, since they are already prisoners through the privilege of nobility. It is said that high-ranking soldier apprentices, by maintaining their positions, receive numerous privileges and benefits. And among these soldier apprentices, Lorena Beowulf, Cruel Dwight, and Kashia Everane are always in the top 3. In this case, the high-ranking boy questioned his colleague about why she apologized to such trash. After the hero realizes that this will be a problem, Cruel continues saying that they do not have the same status and that a commoner should never dare to address them. That said, the noble observes that the protagonist's apprentice number is 974, the lowest of all, and in this case, he mocks the situation, making the hero harbor a strong rage. However, knowing his place in the hierarchy, Yan lowers his head, stating that he should have paid more attention to whom he was talking to and apologizes. Nonetheless, he still receives a cut on his cheek from Cruel, who explains that apologies are things common humans do, and this, according to him, is not the hero's case, who should beg and kneel for mercy. Faced with all that disrespect, the protagonist holds himself back a lot not to lose control, and the boy continues with the provocations. Cruel comments that the boy seems so surprised that he can't even speak, and meanwhile, Lorena hurried to pick up the Dropbox to end the conflict. In the end, Cruel leaves, advising that the hero should start being more careful, and the girl, in turn, apologizes for the inconvenience. That said, Yan thinks it's good that they stay satisfied with their rankings as they have been, because the more they do, the more advantage he has. Back to work, the hero continues to carry those boxes around the entire castle. However, along the way, something catches his attention, making him stop for a moment. A few steps ahead of him, a strong killing intent is felt as if someone were waiting to ambush the hero. From the boy's point of view, this might be something premeditated by Roman, but the killing intent doesn't seem the same. In this case, the protagonist decides to feign ignorance and approach as usual. As he passes by the location, trying to seem like a normal person, someone reveals themselves, saying they have been waiting for the boy. This person is Lorena Beowulf, who greets Soldier Apprentice 09974. In the history of the Imperial Knights, one of the top criminals they failed to capture was the Blue Iron Arm, Galder. He committed his first murder at 11 years old and formed a group of thieves at 20, attacking 23 villages and 17 guilds. It is said that those arms can block even orichalcum, and they represent a symbol of fear. However, one day, Lorena Beowulf tore off one of this monster's arms and dragged him across the ground as if it were nothing. The phrase she uttered about capturing Galder amidst that scene was enough to make her part of the Imperial Knights. Lorena belongs to the Beowulf family, one of the 4 major noble families that command the northwestern snowy mountains. The family's knights say she has the potential to become the continent's strongest swordsman. Since childhood, she was called the Young Holy Sword, and she lived up to her nickname. Thus, she's considered the most complete and powerful product of the Beowulf family. In this case, the hero claims to be nobody, commenting that the girl is probably addressing the wrong person. In such a case, she states that she will ask differently now, and the protagonist thinks that she is the type of person he doesn't want to get involved with. Thus, Lorena asks Soldier Apprentice number 974 about his goal, questioning the reason why he is hiding his true strength, and in light of this, Yan understands that if she becomes an enemy, he must eliminate her first. Trying to smooth over the situation, Oda claims to have no idea what she is talking about. Then the girl reveals that she saw Yan's training at the Great Sword. Initially, she thought it was a simple duel between 2 low-ranking soldier apprentices. However, she soon doubted her own eyes in the face of that spectacle. Having seen a half-inch punch that was entirely out of the league compared to the rest, Lorena questioned why an apprentice would know such a skill. In this situation, the hero realizes he made a mistake, but continues to deny all the girl's claims. Then the girl apparently accepts the possibility of probably being mistaken, which makes the protagonist somewhat suspicious. Thus, the two prepare for a handshake of reconciliation. However, when Yan extended his hand, the girl redirected the movement into an attack. In light of this, the hero understands it to be a half-inch punch used to test him. However, an emotional attack like this is not something he can avoid given the situation. So to avoid raising more suspicions, he accepts the blow graciously, taking a powerful punch to the face. And so he fell to the ground, crony in pain, questioning what he had done wrong. The girl, in turn, expected the boy to block her attack. However, he reiterated that he was not the person Lorena was looking for. Realizing her mistake, she apologizes, and the hero believes the best thing to do is act like a commoner who was unjustly beaten by a noble, making her feel guilty. Because with her personality, she probably won't suspect anything. To make up for her mistake, Lorena offers to help the boy with the boxes, helping to carry them to the final imposed destination. Along the way, the girl asks the protagonist to speak informally with her since they are both soldier apprentices, which Yan finds strange. Then the girl explains that she does not find it honorable for a high-ranking soldier apprentice to treat low-level soldiers like slaves. And she states that when she becomes the lord of a territory, she intends to protect the rights of the slaves there. All this talk makes the hero uncomfortable, but finally, they reach the final destination, and Yan ends up thanking her. However, before leaving, the girl comments that she hopes she's wrong about something, which puts the protagonist on alert again. Turning around, Lorena questions whether the boy saw her attack because at that moment his eyes were following her hand. Thus, with a serious and intimidating expression, she hopes she's wrong about that too. Then she finally leaves, but not before warning that she will see Soldier 974 again. Yan, in turn, admires the girl's cleverness, understanding that there will be no way to get her off his back. In this case, the hero wonders if it would be advantageous to kill her now. At this moment, the protagonist could easily kill her, but if he does, it will make the entire Beowulf family his enemy. Inevitably, the boy would be a fool to decide to create a feud with the whole family just because of a personal grudge. Therefore, Yan first thinks he should focus on escaping and in a bathroom. He affirms being sure that the place was there. Even though there were deserters, when the boy was the task force commander, most of them were not able to escape the training center. However, one deserter managed to escape being caught only in the forest surrounding the place. During the soldier's torture, Yan gently asked how he escaped, and he answered because of the gentle way he was asked. The third area, in the fifth cubicle, there was an abandoned bathroom. Then beyond just a wall, the protagonist finally finds the place. After breaking the wall of the fifth cubicle and digging deep into the wall, an exit can be found. After breaking that wall, the exit was finally found. However, the hole is still small, needing more digging. Thus, the protagonist is filled with happiness and hope for being able to get out of there. In his mind, he already knows he will be able to escape the repugnant special task force and regain his freedom. Later at nightfall, a guard passes by the cells, checking the presence of all the soldiers. Number 971 is dead, and 972 along with 973 are there. However, number 974 seems very quiet. Then the soldier questions why the soldier is not responding. Believing the worst had happened, he approaches, and the hero finally answers the roll call. Standing right there, the guard gets irritated, ordering the boy to respond faster next time. With everything in order, it's time to blow out the candles and go to sleep. Inside the cell, Yan thinks he has understood something after completing several missions. The more cautiously one moves, the greater the chances of success. The protagonist knows he will only have one chance to put his plan into action. Even if he succeeds in escaping, the pursuit squad will be after him, bringing many problems. Therefore, if he fails, his fate will be to be made an example for the remaining apprentices. In this case, the hero needs a wild card that can become an unexpected variable. But at the moment, he doesn't know if this can be done with his current body. Having no other choice, he begins to practice Black Dragon breathing, a mana circulation technique known only to the Special Forces commanders. At this moment, the hero only has the knowledge of the technique, but his body cannot keep up, needing to reduce the load on his core and create an energy one. However, he doesn't have time to create a mana core solely with Black Dragon breathing, leaving only one way. Focusing his concentration and adjusting his breathing, the hero prepares to do the unthinkable. As his only resource, Yan decides to use Divine Dragon breathing. With the start of the technique, the mana flow in his body surprises him, being definitely beyond expectations. Then the mana begins to fill Yan's entire body, making him feel as if a real dragon had entered his body. Divine Dragon breathing is a secret technique of the first emperor who founded this empire, while conquering countless countries with a single sword. The technique was so powerful that the emperor, who was bored, sought it out personally. Witnessing firsthand, the hero understands that the technique is as powerful as its name suggests. But suddenly, something begins to get out of control. The protagonist starts to leave his core, and in light of this, Yan cannot let it continue if he wants to stay alive. With his veins dilated, exuding energy, he needs to do whatever it takes to contain the advancing problem. However, even after much effort, Yan fails, thus losing all progress. In this case, he believes it is impossible to create a mana core with an incomplete secret technique and a body as weak as his. One day, the Emperor taught the hero this technique, but he didn't know if the Emperor was being eccentric or testing him, because the Scent Scroll only contained instructions on how to absorb mana, but no instructions on how to compress it. Although the protagonist knows where the other scroll of the secret technique is, he first needs to focus on escaping before anything else starts. The next day, some people comment that they heard those gathered there will be released. This information quickly spread, causing many soldiers to feel hope and surprise. However, the hero knew that such a thing would never happen, being just a ridiculous dream. Based on what he remembers, today is the day that person will come. And in this case, Yen understands that he needs to stay out of sight at all costs. However, to ruin his plans, Roman shouts around the area asking where his comrade is forcing him to hide. Unexpectedly, the instructor appears, and the soldiers ask if the information that they can return home is really true. The instructor in turn yells for everyone to shut up, calling them worms. This shout echoes throughout the place, making everyone feel sick, as it is an echo of aura voice, something unthinkable to use on apprentices. Aura voice echo is a technique in which mana is mixed into the voice, causing some of the weaker soldiers to succumb. Thus, the instructor addresses everyone as trash who have no talent or status, and the hero is disappointed to have to encounter this lunatic again. After this, the Special Tactical Training Center instructor Damien questions if there is any reason for the soldiers to remain alive. After using the oral voice echo, one of the higher-ranking soldiers goes around collecting the body of the apprentice who couldn't withstand the pressure and died. Thus, he orders everyone to resolve this immediately and asks the soldiers to act quickly because the head instructor is watching. This puts the hero on high alert as low-rank soldier apprentices are just toys for a head instructor. If the hero irritates him, he might end up seeing his bad side before escaping and could even lose his life. Without further ado, the instructor states it is a pleasure to meet his beloved apprentices and asserts that everyone there is trash with the worst talents in society. Honestly, he states that if he could, he would kill them all. However, they are told not to worry because the Emperor, who is even greater than the heavens, will give the soldiers a chance. The chance to be selected to participate in a mercenary project. It is said that this project is to select members to protect the Emperor, the Dragon of the Empire, and the chosen ones will have the honor of becoming Dragon Warriors. However, the hero knows that the reality is different as they will brainwash the soldiers through an insect inserted into their brains. And the true objective of this project is to create puppets for the Emperor to control, to create people who can't even kill themselves without the Emperor's order. Thus, the instructor venerates the grandeur of His Majesty and commands everyone to be grateful for his great mercy. Amidia applauds. He praises that their reaction is better than that of the higher-ranking soldier apprentices. Yan, in turn, understands that he needs to be as discreet as possible. However, suddenly, one of the soldiers raises his hand, saying he has a request. This is Roman, who asked if being a dragon warrior is really that good. Furthermore, he questions if by participating in such a project, you will have the chance to smash the instructor's mocking face. In response to this affront, he is struck by a light shot to his chest that pierces him. What was presented now was the art of snapping fingers, witnessed firsthand on the boy's body. After this, instructor asks if he is okay because he thought he was very strong, since he was talking nonsense with such confidence. However, it was clear that the man was just a simple insect, and at this moment, several soldiers gathered around their comrade to check the situation. From a distance, Yen understands that the boy will probably stop bleeding, but is very dangerous to help now. Unexpectedly, Roman gets up after receiving the commander's attack, questioning what he said. Regarding being called an insect, the boy asks what the people who gathered the insects would be. To survive in the filthy villages, they did all kinds of work and endured all kinds of humiliation, all because their lives could only continue if they did so. In this case, the Emperor or the Dragon Warriors are not important things. Finally, the boy states that they should protect their so important Emperor on their own. And after witnessing the speech, Damien believes that this insect is quite persistent. The instructor compares the boy to a cockroach and comments that he heard that cockroaches survive even when their heads are cut off. Thus, he prepares an attack while wondering if Roman is like them. The crystal mole is a wild rat found deep underground in the mountains, being very notable despite its cute appearance. It is naturally known for the fact that when its crystal comes into contact with something, it starts to glow and eventually explodes. At this exact moment, this happens with the mole ending up blocking the launch blow, making Damien wonder where it came from. With the boy having fainted again, the soldiers gather to move him to another place quickly. Then the hero thinks it was a waste to throw away a crystal mole like that. This bounty was previously found in the abandoned bathroom, so the boy brought it with him in case he needed it. However, he never imagined he would use it so soon. Fortunately, the commander did not notice his plans. because if he does, everything until now will have been in vain. And at this moment, silence reigns in the place, making Yin's anxiety throb. Apparently, Damien does not notice the hero's interference, only praising the boy's resilience. Thus, he dismisses everyone and leaves, giving our hero a bit of relief. Finally, the protagonist thinks that his comrade is an idiot for acting so unprepared. Later, inside the castle, after descending a staircase, Instructor recalls the events of the entire day. Then, in the light of everything, he thinks he found a very interesting toy. In Area 3, in the abandoned bathroom, our hero continues to dig that hole that will allow his future escape. This is the third day he has been doing this, but this time, he made a mistake. Recruit soldier number 974 on his third day of preparation forgot to bring his mask. Dating a tunnel while maintaining stability with wooden boards, and repeating this, has been the routine for the last 3 days. Since the hero can see well in the dark by enhancing his vision with mana, he has no problems even if the tunnel is dark. It is a fact that no one has passed through this place in the last 3 days, because this place is an abandoned building that does not even appear on the map. Given all of this, the protagonist believes he is progressing faster than he thought. However, he gets something strange with his knife, generating a bright light that emits an imminent danger. Moments later, the roll call among the soldiers happens again, and the next on the list is number 974. Fortunately, the administrator finds the soldier present, but he smells something suspicious coming from him. In this case, he questions what the apprentice is hiding, and orders him to remove his hood. Then the hero reveals that he accidentally broke one of the barrels while moving, causing waste to be thrown on his face. Upon hearing this, the inspector smells a strong stench of rot and promptly orders the soldier to leave. After some efforts to maintain cleanliness, the hero believes it is enough to get rid of the smell and is happy that no one suspected him. Moreover, he did not expect to hit the drainpipe among so many things, and it was at the level of dragon waste. However, there is no reason to panic. After all, the plan is progressing without any problems. During his preparation time, the hero gathered a dagger, a rope, and other tools for his escape. Additionally, his body is also prepared to a certain extent. Some time ago, Yan really thought he would die due to the intense training he did in a short period of time. But since it showed good results, it was alright, leaving only one more thing to do. Suddenly, the hero hears a conversation between two superiors. They say they heard Gale had his tongue cut out for laughing in front of an instructor. In this case, they decide to stay hidden for a while, and one of them comments that the commander will soon step down from his post, which makes our hero happy. With the instructor commander not around, this is very important information. Thus, the protagonist cannot let such a good opportunity pass. Secretly again, the hero heads to Area 3 in the abandoned bathroom. Now, it is finally time to finish the escape tunnel before returning. However, suddenly, Yan hears footsteps coming towards him, revealing the presence of someone in the place. Thus, the hero wonders who discovered his plans, considering it might be Lorena's or the commander's doing. Fortunately, the person in the place was Roman. Given this, the boy asks why his comrade seems so disappointed. In this case, the protagonist states that if the boy is following him, he doesn't have time to deal with him, which makes Roman furious for being treated like a stalker. Changing the subject, the hero asks if it's okay to walk around with those wounds, and Roman assures him that these injuries are nothing to him. However, at this exact moment, blood started to gush from Roman's chest like a fountain, and then the boy explained it was a pimple. Thus, Jen says he's glad it's just a pimple and leaves, saying he has better things to do. Given this, the boy smiles and comments that his comrade indeed seems very busy, seeing that he is digging a dog hole through the walls of the place to prepare an escape. In such a case, Roman questioned how wonderful it would be if the instructors found out, and so he asked Yan if he wasn't dying to find out. With his plan revealed, the hero activates his 16th form of Dark Chaos. Thus, he cuts his comrade's neck with a move called Shadow Hunt. With his life flashing before his eyes, the boy only questioned Yen's identity before dying, but he kept his expression cold and calm. That is, if the previous scenes were not just something the protagonist wished to do. Wisely, he understands that the best path is not this, and then the boy questions why his comrade is not saying anything. Roman asks if the protagonist is so nervous that he is mute, but he understands since he would be executed for trying to escape. In the boy's mind, it was clear that the hero did not expect to be caught by him. In this case, if he has nothing to say, Roman suggested that Yan beg to keep the secret. However, the hero questioned why he had to do that since the boy would not say anything anyway, which made him irritated and threatened to tell. Given this, Yan reiterates that his comrade will not tell because he hates the special forces more than he does. As shown earlier, Roman cannot hide his anger even if it might kill him. Having such a strong determination to return home, it would be unlikely for him to tell the instructors about an escape route. Totally without a chance because among everyone, Roman is the one who wants to escape the most. So with his speech finished, Yan asks if he is wrong, and in light of this, the boy admits that his rival is truly extraordinary, recalling that during their fight, he could vaguely feel it. If the hero had wanted, he could have killed him, and he wouldn't be there at that moment. After that, the boy could easily differentiate the hero from the other rookie soldiers, because the protagonist had a unique scent. Given this, the hero confirms his expectations, saying his comrade is a stalker. He denies it, so Yan questions why he knows about the tunnel excavation, which is answered due to the footprints left behind. When questioned further, it is explained that the training center is mostly made of granite, but he discovered strange footprints that contained lime. Moreover, the size and width of the steps were exactly the same as the hero's. In this case, the protagonist asks if his comrade was able to discover to whom they belonged and his plans with just this information. Roman in turn explains that he looked at the work records, and Yan praises him, saying he is smarter than he appears. Changing the subject, the boy asks about the escape plan where the tunnel leads and the likelihood of escaping. However, Yan does not understand why this is being asked and explain that he cannot answer now as he needs time to think. In that case, Roman advises the hero to stay there since he is skilled and likely to climb to a better position in 10 years. Then the protagonist asks what would happen to those the boy is trying to protect. At the moment, they cannot even guarantee their own survival, so it is unlikely his family will be alive in 10 years. Ultimately, our hero explains there is no time to think, so Roman needs to decide now if he will join him because they will not be there in the morning. With his arms crossed, the boy now understands that the hero really has a plan to escape this place, which obviously he confirms, and then he asks if Roman is interested in knowing what it is. The rank difference between the two is 962 places. In this case, if they both escape, the instructors will definitely go after Roman first. It was really, as Yan said, they would not be there after tomorrow, because the boy would be dead. Given this quick reasoning, the hero is again surprised by his comrade's ability, which is indeed very different from expected. In this case, the protagonist asks not to complain because he is also taking a big risk, and finally asks what Roman will do. With this, after thinking a lot about it, the boy understands he has no choice but to take the bait. Back at the training center, the instructor Damien hums before starting his speech. To break the ice, he comments that tonight's breeze is quite pleasant. Then, addressing the main topic, he explains that the reason for gathering everyone so late at night is to make an announcement. Such a meeting at a time like this would naturally cause some complaints, but is asked to think positively as the instructor has good news. Among the soldiers gathered at the place, high-ranking recruit number 32 and number 525 Marvin stood out. Dan in turn remembers that if he is not mistaken, the details of the test will be announced now. This is confirmed by Damien, who will now start informing about the date of the first test. It is said that the task is simple, with the soldiers having to go to a certain place, and there they will if they survive for an entire week. And amid the soldiers' distress, the test location is revealed to be the Blade Mountains, which was expected by the best. In the past, there was an adventurer named Nilfra. He knew of the existence of a medicinal tree that could cure his mother's disease and knew it grew in the place. Days before his adventure, the boy asked his mother not to worry because he would definitely find the medicinal herb. However, he ended up being crushed by the hostile nature of the forest. It is said that his mother waited for him until her last breath, but fortunately, the boy's mother did not know of her son's sad end before she died. The Blade Mountains contained countless monsters and were known to be a forbidden area even within the Empire. At the beginning of the Blade Mountains, you can find goblins, and the deeper you go, the more dangerous it becomes, encountering everything from large demi-humans rarely seen to giant monsters that only appear in stories. These are the monsters present in this Eagle Place. Moreover, there were also monsters that the world did not yet know, monsters that even the world was still trying to discover. And there is one of them that lives in the deepest part of the mountains called the Bat. Returning to the explanations, the instructor asks if the boys are excited. He fills with happiness just thinking about the number of insect-like students who will die next week. Suddenly, one of the manager's soldiers informs his superior that there is something to report. It is said that they received a communique, so they need him at the location, and in light of this, Damien quickly understands. This was the chance our hero was waiting for, and with the announcement coming to an end, everyone was dismissed. After the announcement, the hero thinks the inspector seemed quite upset, but he did not expect it to end so abruptly. It would be nearly impossible for the low-ranking recruits to survive the Blade Mountains, and in light of this, the other high-ranking recruits would be protected by the instructors. Suddenly, someone orders people not to get in the way and to move aside. Because Miss Lorena was passing by in this case, the mere low-ranking recruits could not dare to interfere. At this moment, the protagonist remembers the girl, and while she passes by, he hopes she will ignore him. However, the girl directs her gaze at Yan with an expression indicating she will be waiting eagerly. In such a case, the hero wonders if he has already been discovered, understanding that the situation is more complicated than he thought. But Yan believes there is probably no need to think about it now, especially since he will soon be leaving. Thus, the hero asks if Roman has prepared what he requested, which is confirmed by his comrade. In this case, the protagonist asks him to go to the Great Stone Sword to see how big it is before that. When questioned, Yan explains that it is because it will be the last time the boy will see it, since he already knows what the message the instructor received was. The message was probably a request for him to go to the palace to report on the situation of the first test to the Emperor before it begins. Despite hating to see anyone at the palace, he cannot go against an imperial order. With this, the great unknown variable in the hero's escape plan is gone. Finally, on this day at nightfall, the escape of the two boys from the training center will take place. With a torch lit, one of the outsourced supervisors calls for number 920, and he confirms his presence. As part of the routine, he notes down those who died that day and calls for the next ones. Finally, it is time for number 974 to confirm his presence, but initially, he does not respond. In this case, the supervisor asks the boy not to waste his time and to respond quickly. Then, checking his clipboard for number 974, he appears behind him, ready to carry out his plan. Breaking the soldier's neck, the hero is now prepared to begin his escape plan from the training center along with Roman and two others. At this moment, it is time for the shift change, and in light of this, the protagonist orders his comrades to hide the body properly, so no one will notice. Thus, Jake and Todd understand, saying they will take care of it quickly. After this, Roman reports to Yan that he brought two more as requested, and after being questioned about their competencies, the boy states that they are good. The boy, in turn, asks if the hero is planning to use them as bait, and the protagonist says, as he would never ask to bring them if that was his intention. To prove their skills, the soldiers claim they are not deadweight, and are prepared to lose their lives, but the hero tells them to be quiet. So he asks his comrade to take a look at what is ahead because of this door that the hero needs more people. They said that the protagonist cannot open it alone, thus needing the help of others. To go from the dormitories to the bathroom in the abandoned area, they will need to open these doors. But to do so, they need to step on two pressure plates and activate the external switches that control the doors. First, two of them will step on the pressure plates, and then the other two will go to the other side. Those who go will pull the switches and fix them in place. Then the two who stayed behind will cross. Given this, Roman addresses Jake asking if he is ready, because as soon as the signal is given, they will step on the pressure plates simultaneously. After confirming he is ready, the signal is given and the two step on the pressure plates, thus managing to open the door that will provide access to the escape. In this case, the hero asks Todd to come with him, and Roman asks how long they need to step on them, which is answered that they must hold until the signal is given. After some time, silence began to reign in the place, which made the boys start to suspect the hero's actions. Unexpectedly, the immense door suddenly starts to close, sealing the escape route. Thinking he has been betrayed, Roman punches the wall while calling the hero a bastard. Understanding that he intended to leave him behind from the beginning, the boy laments, saying he should have realized from the moment Yan went in first. However, the protagonist's voice is heard by the boy, asking if he was worried. Ronan then recognizes Yan's voice, and slowly, the door begins to open with the hero, complaining that his comrade couldn't even wait. Covered in blood, he declares that he would never leave anyone behind. Faced with this, Roman asks what happened inside for the hero to be covered in blood and where Todd is. In response, the protagonist says that both are fine, having only been delayed due to an unforeseen event. Initially, Yan believed that feeding him food laced with a sedative would work, but it didn't. Revealing the unforeseen event as a large wolf monster, Yan comments that it was more uncontrollable than he thought, which impressed the boy with his comrade's strength. After that, the escape proceeded as planned, and using the passage dug in the abandoned bathroom, they could see the outside area of the training center. At the peak of a hill, a noise suddenly begins to be heard. It's our hero's arm breaking through the ground, thus finishing his passage through the tunnel. With this, our hero believes they did well, and Roman is still trying to get unstuck from the hole. There is still no presence of other people in the area because they have probably just discovered their escape, thus mobilizing the pursuit squad. Roman, witnessing Freedom, comments that he can't believe they escaped so quickly, thinking it would take an eternity. In this case, the protagonist disagrees with the boy's view, saying it took a long time, much longer than the hero could count, considering everything he suffered in his past life. Finally freed, one of the soldiers comments that it's been a long time since he breathed fresh air. With this, Roman asks the leader if everything will be over once they leave this place, and Yan advises everyone not to let their guard down, because it is just the beginning. Looking at the only keepsake he has, the hero truly understands that this is the beginning of everything. Now we begin the journey for Yan to regain everything he lost and never even had the chance to have. Chapter 10. The atrium forest is made of sequoia trees, and this great forest is spread throughout the northern mountain region of the Empire. Yan explains that they are in this forest and need to run for 2 consecutive days if they want to get out. So Roman questions if it wouldn't be better for them to hide there, because as the sequoia trees are tall, it is a fact that they can hide among them. However, the hero states that the number of monsters in the area makes it unfeasible. Moreover, at this moment, the hunting dogs are after them, and it's only a matter of time before they are found if they decide to hide. The pursuit squad is said to have about 20 members, which will be game over for them if they are found. Given this, there is only one way to increase the chances of escape, which is to disperse and divide the pursuit squad. If they decide to go in different directions or reps, the men will have no choice but to split up, so each will have to deal with only 5 members. Hearing this idea, Roman gets furious, understanding that he will probably be the bait for being a higher-ranking recruit. In this case, Arbois stated that his comrades should have done only regular training to avoid standing out so much. In the end, if the 4 travel together, they will certainly be caught, necessitating this plan so at least one can escape. Again, the order is given that they will run in 4 different directions and questions are opened. Among all things, Roman decides to question one thing he does not understand. It's a fact that everyone has a marked number, or else his little figurine was the only one labeled with the word idiot. Thus, with relevant questions, the protagonist decides to move on, contrary to Roman, who still wanted an answer. In the end, one of the recruits decides to thank Yan, saying that if it weren't for him, they wouldn't have been able to leave that horrible place. And taking off his hood, the boy declares that he will definitely repay him for the help, and asks if they could interact in the future if they managed to meet. Initially, Yan thought this recruit named Jake was just a normal soldier, but he probably also had his own reason for fleeing. Considering what was said, the white-haired boy claims it's nonsense and says he doesn't want to meet any of them again. So the protagonist says that he acted very well as a captain, but that his heart is cold. To clear up the misunderstanding, Roman explains that what he meant was that the situation in which they would meet again would be when they were all caught. And in light of this explanation, Yan thinks his comrade sounds like an old man when he decides to lecture, wondering if he also regressed. Unfortunately, the protagonist states that Roman is right and that they will never meet again. Thus, with the strong wind, Yan begins to run at high speed to escape the area. Thinking his comrades must already be running with all their might, it's time for him to start making an effort too. Activating the divine dragon breathing, the art of mobility is initiated, awakening the wind steps ability. As in this way, he shoots off like a flash, circling an entire tree and finally reaching its top. At the top of the tree, the hero has a peripheral view of the entire forest. After reflecting a bit, he understands that his body hinders him too much, making it difficult to even maintain the divine dragon breathing, although the technique itself is efficient. However, the hero should already be happy to compensate for this deficient body that doesn't even have mana flowing within it despite the strengthening techniques. But now the key question is how long his comrades will hold out, as the protagonist doesn't even know what he was expecting from those kids. Yan is the commander of the 5th Special Force, a man known for being the best in tracking, assassination, and espionage. So for now, he will see how good the special forces of his time are. Inside the training center, the soldiers still have no news of the pursuit squad. In this case, they panic because they need to capture the deserters. One of them says it must be done before the crazy commander returns, and another supervisor agrees, trembling with fear. However, Damien says that it will be impossible, because that madman is already back. Thus, the supervisor who disrespected the commander starts to panic. The situation gradually becomes tenser with the instructor casting a bloodthirsty look. However, he decides to relax, saying that things like this happen, and the soldier, Turn, begs 1,000 pardons, saying he was imprudent in his speech. But Damien comforts him, saying that people even curse the emperor. In this case, instructor asks if this is the soldier managing the recruits' dormitories, and comments that it must be difficult to find the runaway recruits. In response, the soldier assures his superior not to worry because the pursuit squad will capture them without problems. However, Damon questions the phrase "without problems." With a murderous expression, he asserts that there is already a problem. With his hands on the boy's shoulders, the commander instructor presses him to the ground, breaking both his legs in several places. The situation becomes horrifying, with blood spreading everywhere, and the instructor explains that the boy didn't know about the escape plan. He didn't even know they had dug an escape route, or that the boys had stolen the necessary items to flee. In this context, the responsible soldier begs his superior for forgiveness, asking for another chance. However, Damien puts his foot on his head, questioning this chance. Given all the facts, Damien states that he will not give the boy anything. In his last breath, the soldier still begs for his life to be spared, but the instructor comments that he knows who the soldier works for, ignoring the pleas for mercy. After that massacre, Damien orders another soldier to call back all the pursuit squads that went outside. From now on, he will take command to deal with this personally. When questioned, the instructor says it's because he found an interesting person, and in this case, he's really looking forward to it. Chapter 11. In the Atrian Forest, things are currently quite chaotic. Team 3 of the Special Forces Pursuit Squad is searching for the runaway recruits. Amid the chase, their leader asked everyone to stop for a moment. With this, the leader was questioned about the reason for the stop and whether their tracks had disappeared. In this case, the leader denies it, informing them that the tracking is going smoothly. However, Team 3 leader Kelly asks her comrades if it doesn't seem abnormal that everything is progressing so well. Among the squad members, Jer comments that the target is just someone numbered 974, logically making the chase easy, and Andrea believes the leader is being paranoid. They tracked the footprints to the cliff and found more tracks there, indicating that the fugitives are simply in a hurry to escape. Jer then comments again that their leader is doubting everything, and that's why he is alone. In light of this, Kelly gets angry and wonders if he is really exaggerating. However, those feelings of discomfort aren't going away, and the fog started to rise. So the soldiers decided they should catch the target before he hides in the mist. Jer says it will be an easy mission because it's number 9174, unlike the team responsible for number 12. But even so, Andre believes he's just another recruit. At this moment, Jer thinks his comrade is being too confident and asks what his number was during his recruit days. However, he is quickly lifted into a tree, disappearing from the area. Now only 2 members of the pursuit squad remain, and Andrea is confused about the whereabouts of his friend. But before he can say anything, he meets the same fate as Jer, leaving only 1 member of the group. Kelly, in turn, turns his back, saying that his comrades are too noisy and that the fugitives would escape due to their chatter. However, paying closer attention to the scene, the leader notices that his 2 comrades simply disappeared. Without making any noise, the 2 vanished in an instant. So Kelly understands that it was his bad feeling. However, he still refuses to believe it because not even number 12 would be able to take down the instructors. In this case, it was unlikely that number 974 could do anything. At that exact moment, while he was thinking, the hero appeared behind the man to finish him off. But Kelly manages to react at the last moment. He launches his spiral/attack, cutting an entire tree in half. The leader then gets irritated by the brat's arrogance, questioning if he expected that attack to work a 3rd time. However, a line circles the leader's neck, capturing him without his notice, and he is lifted off the ground. Realizing a wire too late, Kelly starts agonize as his neck is crushed. In this case, everything starts to make sense. The footprints and pieces of clothing were not real tracks. These things were actually bait set to trap them. Thus, in his last moments, the leader only questions how a mere number 974 could defeat them. Kelly shouted that it was possible for his entire team to have been eliminated while the hero managed everything from behind a tree. With the remaining strength, he uttered the names of Andre and Jer, but he met the same fate as the two, with the annihilation of Team 3 resulting in complete success. Looking at his knife, the hero believes is a good weapon, suitable for use as it is discreet. Initially, he thought it would be difficult, but everything went smoothly, and in the end, the protagonist believes he can fight without problems if he uses body-strengthening techniques. However, he first needs to leave the forest before the fog completely envelops it, so the hero spreads the blood of the pursuit squad throughout the area. It is a fact that hunting dogs will smell it and come there. In this case, the protagonist thinks it would be better if he could hide his scent. In his hand, he holds a moss plant that produces a poisonous fruit and contains leaves and flowers with a very strong smell. The hero's plan is to crush the leaves and spread them on himself, as even the hunting dogs hate this stench, making it erase his scent. The priority now is to hurry, because the longer the protagonist stays there, the harder the escape will be, and it is said that not even he could escape if surrounded. Suddenly, something catches Yan's attention. Nearby, smoke is clearly visible on the horizon. Climbing a tree, the hero believes the pursuit squad wouldn't do that, so it might be the work of Jake and Todd. The protagonist criticizes the decision to camp in such a place, because at this rate, the worst will happen. However, he understands it's not the time to worry about others, as he brought them to use as bait. In this case, for Yan, it's better that they draw attention this way. However, the hero remembers his last moments with his comrades and decides to contradict his thought, heading toward them. Yan thinks it's probably more advantageous for them to be live now, and activating his mobility art, he believes he just needs to get rid of the tracks. Suddenly, chills begin to run down the hero's neck, and he can feel everything. The eyes of death, which he has witnessed many times on the battlefield. At this moment, the protagonist can sense that something's behind him watching and preparing its claws. Chapter 12. After feeling that murderous intent behind him, the person responsible is pleased that the hero took the bait. It is said that as soon as he met him, he knew he was an interesting person, wondering if something interesting would be shown, like the fluttering of the small butterfly's wings. In the end, it can cause a hurricane. The one responsible for the murderous intent is Damien, who is pleased to be right in his judgment. The protagonist, in turn, wondered what brought the instructor there, and the instructor himself says it's a pleasure to meet recruit 974. Thus, our hero understands that things from now on have become extremely complicated. In the forest, clouds suddenly begin to gather, and a thunderstorm configures a strong thunderclap that causes a rumble in the area. In light of this, the instructor comments that it seems a huge storm is approaching. However, the hero still hasn't confirmed what was in front of him. Instructor Damien was supposed to have been dismissed and couldn't be there now. It is said that before he regressed, he definitely returned later than expected. There were even rumors that he almost got arrested after causing trouble at the palace. So the protagonist reaches a cruel conclusion: the future has changed. At this moment, he wonders if his actions caused this, but he doesn't understand which one could have, as he can't think of any that would influence the instructor. The small cracks created by the different actions the hero took ended up destroying the original future. In this case, to break the ice, Damien asks what the apprentice will do this time, whether he will use a mole or a lightning rat. Inevitably, now the protagonist discovers that the instructor saw his action, and he explains that anyone would notice. However, he is still surprised that the boy acted in such a short time, thus praising his quick and impressive thinking. At first, the instructor was confused, but soon realized that initially he thought there were only worms there. However, among all those low-ranking apprentices, there was someone interesting hidden. Thus, the protagonist understands his mistake, regretting having interfered at that moment. He doesn't know how many changes he caused in the future, but this was certainly the worst possible scenario. However, Yan believes he's not sure because although the instructor is known to him as one of the 3 continental swordsmen, this recognition only happens in the future. Even so, he doesn't know about his current state. Witnessing the hero's gaze in this scene, Damien praises him and claps, saying he is the best among all. Laughing, the instructor asks if the hero is thinking about how to kill him, commenting that it has been a long time since someone did that to him. Continuing to laugh, he explains that normally people think about how to run away, now being truly speechless. And to compose himself, he apologizes for having gone overboard, and in this case, the instructor decides to give the apprentice a special opportunity. Thus, he asks the soldier to try to kill him and promises that if he does, he will give the desired freedom, which surprises our hero. In this case, Damien thinks the boy is really interesting, having a different look at the moment he mentioned that. It is said that he had never seen someone like him before, a mere low-ranking recruit who was able to kill a beast and annihilate the pursuit team that was after him. His decision-making skills, boldness, resilience, techniques, and attention to detail are all at a different level compared to the common trash, as if he were born with the purpose of being part of the special forces. If he grows at this rate, it is impossible to know what kind of monster awaits them at the end. So now, the revelation of everything begins with Damien silently pleading for the student to show all his skills. However, contrary to what was expected, the hero kneels and cries out, asking the Lord to help him. An atmosphere of disappointment and confusion is created, and the instructor is completely bewildered. Chapter 13. Yan, in tears, questions if this is really the commander instructor and explains that he has poor vision, so he can't tell who the person is. He also says he had no intention of escaping, but was dragged by the soldiers because they said they would kill him if he refused to follow them. However, they abandoned him and suddenly left alone. With this, the hero said he thought everything was over until he found an instructor, Damien. In turn, questions if what is being said is that he was dragged there by force, and the hero confirms. In explanation, Yan says that number 12 planned everything, and that all he did was insult the instructor whenever he had the chance. Thus, Damien says he understands, but thinks this is a really flimsy excuse. And with this said, the hero continues to cry non-stop while pleading with his lord. However, the instructor knew what he really wanted, showing a hidden weapon that the protagonist would use after making him lower his guard. With the boy's plan discovered, the instructor says is disappointing. At that moment, a blade stealthily approaches his eyes. Damien narrowly managed to dodge and understood that the second projectile was launched at the same angle, making the first one a distraction, a physiological trick expecting him to dodge the first one. With the attack concluded, the protagonist is no longer seen by the instructor, who believes that escaping was the main plan. But it is said that this line of thinking is wrong, and unexpectedly, that hero appears behind Damien, saying that what he really wants is yet to come. The instructor is startled, not understanding when the student got there. But Yan doesn't give his opponent time to react, activating the deep shadow of the 15th form, the Shadow Elimination Slash. Unexpectedly, the hero retreats, realizing that his enemy dodged his attack. A black mist covered him to protect the instructor's body, so now it is Damien's turn to attack. After much dodging, the protagonist manages not to be hit by the numerous shots launched. He thinks that the instructor is still chasing him, and cannot get rid of him at this rate. In this case, holding his blade, the hero imbues it with a white light called Deep Shadow. Yam then activates his secret attack ingestion art, but due to the intense pressure, his dagger shatters into several pieces. Given the skills displayed, Damien decides to withdraw what he said about letting the apprentice go if he defeated him, because he couldn't let such an important toy go. A toy like this, the best among all. Thus, the instructor states that he could play with the boy for all eternity without getting bored. Therefore, the hero now understands that he has a mad dog obsessed with him. But upon looking more closely at his opponent's body, a certain symbol catches his attention. 22 hours before the escape, the daily list was completed in the low-ranking recruit's accommodation of the Special Forces called the Cave. That day, the hero had already made preparations for the escape, and after that, he would leave and return to his family. Even without knowing anything about them, and with the only clue being the old pendant he carries with him, the hero's determination to find them and enjoy a peaceful life with them was clear. However, suddenly the pendant breaks, revealing something deep inside. This symbol could be the insignia of the protagonist family. The pattern was engraved on the pendant's lid, hidden behind the glass, but there was still no reason for it to be hidden. If the hero's family had such an insignia, it meant that he was neither a commoner nor a slave, which was great information. Initially, the protagonist thought he would find someone who recognized the insignia, but things didn't go as expected. For some reason, this symbol of his family was on the body of the Dan instructor of the training center. Chapter 14. Damien complaining about why his opponent stopped so suddenly, the hero understands that he found the insignia stamped in a totally unexpected place. In this case, he questions if his family is the same as the instructor's, but believes it is not possible. At this moment, seeing that the student will do nothing, Damien decides to take the lead in the battle to finish him off. However, the protagonist, though deep in thought, is still paying attention to the battle, and before anything else, lands a kick on the man's face. Basti questions if he hits squarely, but the instructor easily defends and says that it was powerful, asking where he learned things like that. In response, the instructor believes he should show what he can do as well, thus activating the deep shadow sword of blade suppression. Several blades rise from the ground to pierce the hero from below. However, Jan manages to defend himself despite having part of his clothes pierced. At this moment, the instructor acts as if he is playing with a doll, as the killing intent in these black blades is not the strongest. So the protagonist thinks that maybe he can escape when the instructor lowers his guard, but he will not be able to discover that insignia if he flees. It is a fact that if Yan is involved with her, a great rebellion is about to happen across the continent in the near future. This rebellion, known as the Armenia Revolt, will last for 10 years, and countless nobles will be massacred, with the effects being substantial enough to threaten the life of the imperial family. However, even such a great rebellion was suppressed by the emperor's sword, who, after executing all the people who instigated the rebellion and their families, burned them. It was said that the fire burned for 20 days, and thus this event was called the 20 Days of Twilight. The main suspect was the emperor's illegitimate son, and there were many rumors about why he instigated the rebellion. There were several rumors about the reason for the rebellion, but no one knew the truth because all relevant records were erased. All those who remember him referred to him as the Continental Swordsman and instructor of the Special Forces Training Center. Damien says he can hear the hero drowning in thoughts even from afar, indicating that he is not focusing on the fight. The protagonist, in turn, thinks that if his family is directly related to him and the Armenia Revolt, his family could simply cease to exist. In this case, he must prevent that from happening at all costs, so Yan decides to stay in the Special Forces and become indispensable to the instructor. Meeting something to attract him, the hero impressed with the instructor's skills, as he never thought he would find him on his own. Therefore, he said that the Special Forces captain would be happy to see Damien's hard work. However, the attempt to flatter the instructor backfires, with Damien having the opposite reaction than expected. The instructor grabs the protagonist by the face and takes him with him, throwing him into a tree, very irritated by the joke. This simple move makes the forest begin to crumble due to the immense power of that commander. After being swept across the ground, the protagonist agonizes in pain and remains leaning against tree on the ground. Damien holds him by his clothes, saying he was considering being gentle, but the boy has a rather arrogant mouth. He then questions if he doesn't value the life he has, and as he lifts him off the ground, Yan states that even an arrogant person like him can be useful sometimes. In this case, the instructor wonders what the boy's usefulness could be. Then Yan responds, saying he knows the Special Forces captain's weakness, which can be used to end his life. The instructor questions how a mere apprentice could know such a thing, but the hero simply says the answer is in Simons County at Crossing 52. It is said that it is there where the instructor can find the Special Forces captain's weakness, leaving the commander incredulous. A few hours later, back at the Special Forces Training Center, as he walks through the corridors of the place, the instructor starts to get dressed, and he complains about his tight clothes, saying he never thought he would throw away his precious suit like that, but there was no avoiding it. Thus, an aide asks his lord what they should do with the 3 previous dimension people, and Damien just orders them to be thrown back into the cave. The aide understands, but when the instructor is about to say something more, he is interrupted. A certain person at the top of the staircase says his comrade is acting as if he is busy. Finally, he meets the instructor and says that he actually has all the time in the world, but he questions the possibility that the commander instructor is just a lazybones, giving him the opportunity to respond. In light of this, Damien questions what brings the Special Forces captain, Rodrigo Meyer, there without any prior notice. This man is number 1 among all the soldiers and asks how the training center has been recently. The instructor, in turn, explains that it is running perfectly. The captain comments that it is different from what he heard. Damien retorts, saying that perhaps the captain has heard the rumors that the standards of the recruits are better than the actual squad members. However, Rodrigo denies this, saying it is absurd, and explains that he came to take a look because the quality of the members who came from the training center was horrible. Thus, the instructor counters again, saying that it's not their fault because the one to blame is the squad leader who can't manage his own members. In this case, the captain thanks him for the advice, saying he will take it into consideration. Despite the seemingly polite conversation, the tension between the two increased more and more. with the mana released into the air being capable of shaking the entire environment. Even the pillars are shaking due to the enormous pressure the two are emanating. The man in the hood thinks that the pressure is so intense that weaklings would immediately faint. Rodrigo then suddenly states that he didn't attend the Imperial family's morning meeting as he heard from the others. Damien replies, saying that he has more important matters to attend to than such unnecessary formalities, so Rodrigo asks what important things he is talking about. Rodrigo tells him that there is no such thing as more important than showing respect to the Emperor. He then states that he knows the reason he must have been acting so rudely. Damien wonders what it is since the captain is so sure of it. The captain says that he is acting rudely due to the certain blood that flows in him, which garnered an irritated reaction from him. Rodrigo also mentions that he heard that he missed the meeting due to escaped soldiers. Then he berates him for not being able to handle weak trainees. The captain then says that he will take care of it, to which Damien replies, saying that the captain must have been mistaken about something. Damien mysteriously states that there are no escaped soldiers as he walks away. Rodrigo doubts his statement and deems it impossible, but he responds, saying that his hearing must have gone dull due to his age. He explains that the soldiers simply went out to prepare a test. Then he asks the captain if he saw any insects, to which the captain asks what he meant. Damien menacingly says that he is trampling these insects in the training center until their death, but their numbers are endless, so it's getting troublesome. His words unsettled the captain, which left him speechless. Eamon continues and says that he already found the insect's den and that he will be able to exterminate them all. He then bids goodbye to the captain as he gently walks out of the place. Once he left, he rambles to the hooded man that the indigestion he was experiencing went away once he saw the old man's shocked expression. He then changes the topic and asks if what the hooded man told him is all true, and if it isn't, then you should know the consequences. The man takes off his mask and assures him to not worry and that he will know once he investigates it. Damien looks back in suspicion, but he does not say a word. The man is revealed to be Yan and tells him confidently that the information he has is all correct. After their discussion, Yan recalls his childhood where he lived in a place named Simon County at Street 52, which is an often neglected street. The houses there looked dirty, as if it was exclusively for commoners. Outside a house somewhere, a boy shouts to get someone's attention. The boy is Yan in the past who asks someone to open their windows and that he will show them something interesting. He excitedly tells the person in the house that he caught a huge rat and that it is super cute, but the window still doesn't open as the street is very dangerous for children. So Guyan continues to ask whether there are any people in the house. He asks again if there really is no one home. Suddenly, someone responds from the house. As the window opens, the person inside tells him that no one would be interested in seeing a rat. The person inside is revealed to be a little girl, who also states that she would like to see a squirrel instead of a rat. She then smiles warmly from inside, and it is also revealed to be a Special Forces captain's daughter. Back at the instructor's office, Damien hears his story. He starts giving his judgment. He reiterated that Yan played with the captain's daughter when he was young, to which he affirms. Yan also adds that there weren't many children, so they all knew each other. Damien becomes a bit suspicious and states that it is a huge coincidence that Yan knew the captain's daughter. Yan replies, saying that it is indeed a coincidence, while thinking to himself that he doesn't expect him to believe such a lie, but he also thinks that he needs to make him believe such a half-baked lie, since it would lead to a situation where the captain and the instructor would be at each other's throats. Although Damien has been searching everywhere for the captain's weakness, he still couldn't find it. Yan's proof of believing that he still hasn't found it is the instructor's face when he told him about the location. Damien asks if he did know the daughter's location, then why would he think that it's the captain's weakness? Yan explains that he heard it in person, to which Damien then asks him to elaborate. Back to his story, the girl tells Yan that she is leaving, so he asks why she would do so suddenly. She explains that there are a lot of bad people after her dad, so they are looking for her as a way to threaten him. And then a few days later, she was taken away by people in black clothes. Yan states that he only knew those men were special forces once he came to the training place, and that her dad is the captain. Damien hears his story and acts unimpressed at first, but it then turns into a smile a few moments later. He then laughs loudly at how everything came together and states that if he really is friends with the captain's daughter, he was also able to find out his beef with the captain and capitalize on that. So he asks if such coincidences really happen. Yan tells him that the goddess of luck might be helping him. Suddenly, something flies toward Yan's direction, but he swiftly dodges. It was a pen that the instructor was holding, which managed to pierce the wall. The instructor states that he doesn't believe such a coincidence, and that he is more inclined to think that he is the captain's spy since it makes more sense. Yan wipes off the blood from a slice on his face that the pen inflicted while looking intensely at the instructor. He then states that he understands why he might think that there couldn't be such coincidences, which made the instructor intrigued. He then states that he collected every piece of the puzzle in order to survive such a hellhole. The memories from when he was younger, and the pieces about the captain and his daughter. Then the hierarchy within the special forces and his beef with the captain. He states that he thought about how these puzzle pieces would benefit him, which allowed him to survive. Yan also explains that if he were a spy, there would be no merit in risking his life, and this information was for him to use in case his escape failed. He kept it secret. The instructor finally starts to believe in his statement that is full of both lies and truths. Within the instructor's heart, you would have a balance of both believing and doubting his statement. But in order to lean the scales in his favor, he reveals another piece of information. Yan tells Damien that he knows where the captain's daughter went, which made him very intrigued. In order to make the instructor believe his statements, he would have to make him believe that he will gain more by believing him, which would then tip the scales in his favor. Damien lets out an aggressive breath after hearing his words. He then stands up from his desk and ponders to himself whether the goddess of luck really is helping him. Yan nervously waits for his response as he wonders if the scales finally tipped in his favor. Damien then asks if the goddess is really on his side, which confirms that he believed his statement. Yan then tells him that he will be his mascot of luck, which made Damien ask him to shut up. The instructor tells him that he will let his escape slide, so he reminds him not to blab about it to the others. With this victory, he finally thinks to himself that he overcame a crisis. He also thinks that the instructor doesn't believe everything he said, but it is enough for now since he would get closer to him in the future. Yan apologizes for disturbing him and wishes him a good rest, to which Damien lightly responds. After Yan left the office, the instructor is left wondering how such a person is ranked 974. He thinks that the other instructors have really messed up their vision, or the examination system is flawed. But he suddenly sees a document that catches his attention. The document he has holdings about Yan, which made him smile in excitement as he saw an interesting piece of information in his files. He's impressed with the information, which seemed to solve the mystery of why he was ranked 974. A week then passes since the escape. At the Blade Mountain ranges of the demonic realm, the Special Forces' first trainee soldier exam will now start. This place is a restricted area in the Empire. Since this area is where all sorts of terrifying monsters roam around, it is an absolutely dangerous place. During the exam, a swamp goblin attacks the trainees with his rundown sword. A trainee then attacks the goblin with a sword, which manages to strike it straight in the face, which also sends the monster's head flying. The training that defeated the goblin is surrounded by other trainees for support. They then celebrate as they catch their breath, saying that the demonic realm is easier than expected. The cautious trainee asks them to calm down since there might be other monsters, to which they respond, saying that they already killed all of the monsters within the vicinity. He then explains that they would pass once they get through a week in the demonic realm, so they can now relax at this rate. The cautious employee tells him once again to calm down, but now the more serious expression, which prompted the excited trainee to apologize. He reminded his excited colleagues that there are other requirements to pass the exam, which is to kill monsters and gather their demonic crystals. So their scores would be determined by the amount of crystals they gather, which could allow them to climb higher than the 4 great families. The cautious trainee then orders them to cool their heads so they can now start killing monsters again. As he speaks to the trainees, a monster's hand approaches, which twisted the cautious trainee's head backward in an instant. His allies are terrified at what just happened and could only watch in horror as their comrade died. They then order the big monster to stay away as they wonder where such a big thing came from. The monster speaks incomprehensibly with his eyes out of focus. While playing with the dead trainee's corpse, the monster is a mutated ogre that conceals its presence with mana before approaching its prey. After playing with the corpse, the monster then throws the body away, then swiftly swipes his hand towards the trainees, which kills both of them in one attack. Their corpses are then sent flying all over the place. A magic orb allows the instructor to spectate the test in detail, which made them see such a gruesome scene. Damien laughs loudly as he sees the trainees get murdered brutally. He then announces that the first team of 30 members is now wiped out, so he reminds the trainees to be careful to test, since cleaning up bodies is troublesome. Damien tells them that 50 more trainees will be sent to the warp gate in 5 minutes, so as to not waste more time. The trainees reply in agreement to his words. Jan is with the trainees and thinks to himself that he's still getting dragged into the demonic realm. He then notices that the instructor looks pretty happy, which leads him to think that he has trusted troops to scout the location that told him about. Though there are traces of the daughter in that location, there is nothing but concrete left in it. Yan then believes that he needs to get outstanding scores in order to get closer to him, and to achieve that, he would need to improve his body, since there is a limit to how much he can grow with an incomplete divine dragon's breathing technique. So now he thinks that being sent to the demon realm might not be so bad after all. Since there are still 2 treasures hidden in the demon realm, which could allow him to grow his strength even faster. Suddenly, the instructor seems to be shouting at the platform about something unexpected. Yan wonders what it is, since it is rare to see the instructor this surprised. They then kneel down on one knee and order trainees to also pay their respects. Someone then suddenly walks for the platform, and it is revealed to be a future ruler of the Kavalan Empire. Yan recalls something from the past, which is that about 500 people will die due to the first test, and that there are no other noteworthy events, meaning that the Crown Prince Leon did not appear in the past. Yan is distraught and looks fiercely at the Emperor while wondering why he was here. He could not have possibly forgotten him thanks to him murdering Yan. The Crown Prince then greets the trainees. Yan feels rage as he sees the face of the person that played with his life, and the face that he saw right before he died. Due to his rage, he could not stop looking intently at the Emperor. The Crown Prince introduces himself as Leon Kavalan, while standing gracefully in front of the trainees. They then pay their respects and bend on one knee after the introduction. But Yan is still burning with anger, and is struggling to keep his temper. Prince Liam starts speaking and orders everyone to be at ease. He then fiercely proclaims that the trainees that want to get out of the place should raise their hands, and that he will guarantee their safety if they do so. The Crown Prince continues and says that anyone who has been dragged against their will to this place will be given freedom. Yan is confused at what the Crown Prince is suddenly saying and stares blankly. He wonders how the Crown Prince has suddenly changed as he wasn't behaving so gracefully in the past. Yan then recalls a scene from his past where he is reporting to the Emperor about his Special Forces team successfully invading the enemy's territory. They are at the Emperor's residence, which is located at the capital Avalon, as Yan reports that the team successfully completed their objective. The Emperor praises him for the good work that he has done. Yan then tells the Emperor that he will be sending reinforcements quickly, which makes the Emperor question him. He explains, saying that the team they sent is small, so it is impossible for them to make it back alive if they don't send reinforcements. Leon then states that he should instead leave them alone so that they can sacrifice themselves to kill more enemies, which Yan swiftly opposes. Saying that they cannot simply abandon the soldiers that fought valiantly, the Emperor then states his reasoning and tells him that the world is like chess. There are different pieces, which are the slaves, citizens, knights, and nobles, and all of them exist for the sake of the Emperor. So for the sake of one king, hundreds and thousands of humans will be sacrificed to ensure his survival, which is the ideal world for him. The Emperor avidly smiles, saying that there is no greater honor than to sacrifice their lives for his sake. As Yam recalls the scene, his face warps in anger at his despicability. The Crown Prince continues his speech, saying that the children of nobles have entered this place in order to attain power. He then orders them to return, unless they want to face him when he ascends the throne. The trainees look at each other, questioning whether what he is saying is really true. While Yan is stuck thinking about what happened for Leon to act so kindly, Damien then tells the prince that the trainees are in shock after listening to his speech, to which the prince swiftly responds, saying that they should stop such an unethical project. The commander instructor explains that the special forces exist to protect the Empire and the Emperor, which triggers Leon, and he says that what he said is simply ridiculous. Since the Emperor exists for the people, and he questions the purpose of the crown, his only purpose is to drive the people into life or death situations. He then confidently states that there is no meaning to having such a crown, and that he opposes that kind of thinking. Leon tells him that such evil practices should be gotten rid of, to which Damien opposes. saying that the emperor already approved it, which makes it completely legal. The crown prince then questions its legitimacy. He then asks the trainees if anyone has volunteered for the test. Otherwise, he shall stand down. The trainees murmur, saying that there shouldn't be anyone who would volunteer for such an exam. Leon then shows Damien that no one has stood up, which quickly irritates him due to the prince's idealism. But suddenly, one trainee stands up and calls the crown prince. It is Yan, and he confidently introduces himself and states his number. Then he tells the prince that he would like to volunteer for the exam. Leon thinks for a bit and realizes that his number 974 sounds familiar. The crown prince then asks him why he would not like to get out of the special forces since they are treated badly, to which he responds, saying that they really are being treated badly. But he also states that there is something that is given fairly regardless of rank. He fiercely yells that it is the qualification for them to risk their lives in order to ascend higher. Yan stares intensely at the emperor and states that he will participate in the test in order to get something that he wants to achieve. After hearing his answer, Leon calls the commander instructor. He then tells him that he has taken in his soldier that he doesn't deserve. Leon also tells him to continue the test, since he cannot go back on his words, but on the condition that he will observe the whole process on the sidelines, to which Damien agrees. The commander instructor then orders the trainees to repay the prince's kindness with their lives, which garners everyone's agreement. As the trainees go towards the warp circle, the instructors carefully explain how the gate works. They say that they will enter the mountain ranges via the gate, and that once they enter, their locations will be assigned. They then remind them that bodies sometimes disintegrate due to transmission errors, but they assure them not to worry about such things. After the other trainees enter the gate, it is finally Yan's turn to go. They started the countdown once he stepped into the warp gate. As he is being teleported, he thinks back again to the fact that Leon didn't come to the training center at this time in the past. He also wonders why he is completely different from the Emperor than he knows of. The countdown then reaches its end, which begins the transmission of his body. As his body is being transmitted, he wonders what happened to the Crown Prince. Moments later, he is finally transported into the demon realm. The transportation is a success, seeing that he is slowly being integrated into the place. Yan checks all his limbs for good measure and finds that it's all intact, so now he is ready to go. He complains that he is teleported to a place where no one is around, but he quickly moves on and decides to search for a weapon. But he stops in his tracks after noticing a certain smell. He is at the Valley of Wind in the Blade Mountain Ranges, and he remembers the smell of the valley, which is a mix of demonic energy and sulfur. Not long after, he also hears something from behind. It is a monster, and it swiftly attacks from Yan's back. In another area inside the demon realm, a cockatoo griffin is rampaging all over the place. The scared trainees are trying to run away since they might get single-handedly taken out by the griffin. A scream is let out by the griffin, which is quickly stopped by someone as they slice its face straight in half. The one that attacked is none other than Lorena, who used the 15th form of the Dark Soul Arts. As she attacked, her eyes remained calm, and her gaze is cold as ice. The other trainees thanked her for helping them afterwards, since they would have died if it weren't for her. But Lorena shrugs off their thanks and instead asks if their team is made up of low-ranked trainees. They answer saying that their members' ranks are mainly around the 700s, so they were trying to get out in the valley since too many of them are injured. The weak trainees then ask if they can follow Lorena until they get out of the valley, to which she coldly replies saying that it doesn't matter either way, but they thank her regardless. Lorena is thinking deeply to herself and wonders where Yan is, since there is no way that he would already be dead. She thinks back to the bold attitude Yan showed and ponders why he is trying so hard to keep the test going. Suddenly, someone interrupts her thoughts and criticizes her for doing stupid stuff. The person is Cruel, who disgustedly asks why she wants to travel with such weaklings since they will only get in the way. He adds that they can't even use them as meat shields. Cruel continues his barrage and asks her if such compassion of hers will really help, to which Lorena warns him to watch his words and that the ranks don't really matter. He provokes her further, saying that the number 1 spot will be changed after this test. But Lorena replies, telling him that if he focuses too much on the ranks, then he will lose sight of what's important. Thankfully, someone interrupts their heated conversation, which turns out to be Kasha. She then calls Cruel short-sighted and explains that there is no need for them to compete with each other, even if the test is individually graded. Cruel asks if she is also traveling with the weaklings, to which Cassia answers, saying that she promised to help all of them pass and that the bigger the group, the better. She also adds, saying that the nobles should lead the commoners. Cruel mocks her words and laughs a bit. He asks her if such a traitorous bloodline could be considered an ability, which darkened her expression immediately. Cruel continues mocking her desire to lead commoners, and asks her to recall what the Everain family did while leading the commanders. He then reminds her to be careful since it would be a waste for the last surviving member of the Everain family to go to the gallows. Cashin manages to regain her composure and retain her smile. She thanks him for his concern and admits that she was too focused on restoring her family's honor, but she also says that she is envious of Cruel at times like these, since he has his two older brothers taking charge of the Dwight family so he can live however he likes, which makes Cruel snap. He then goes to attack her but is quickly stopped. His hand was about to reach Cash's neck, but Lorena managed to stop it in time. He curses at her as his hand shakes in rage. Lorena commands him to calm down with a steadfast gaze. He finally gives in and lets out a sigh in anger. Cruel pushes her hand away and calls both of them fools as he walks away in defeat. Back at the Blade Mountain ranges, Cruel irritatedly complains that he would only be dragged down by traveling with such useless weaklings. As he walks, he also recalls a scene from his childhood. There he is sitting on the floor, while someone tells him to not want, nor think about anything, and simply live as if he is already dead. He is salty at the fact that he remembered such a scene, but his train of thought is quickly stopped by blood traces on the ground. Cruel sees that it leads behind the boulder and that the blood also smells fresh, so he wonders if the place is a monster's lair. He decides to hide himself and observe since it would be troublesome if there are too many monsters, but he only sees a human alongside all of the corpses, which shocks him. Cruel identifies the monsters, which are red goblins, and he wonders if he managed to kill all of them. He also wonders what on earth the person alongside the monsters is doing. Cruel becomes even more shocked after he sees the monsters being eaten by the person who is revealed to be Yan. But Yan, unaware that he's being watched, continues munching on monster meat. Back before Cruel finds him eating monsters, Yan is thinking about the two important items that can be found in the Blade Mountain ranges, so he must obtain them quickly in order to execute his plan. As he is wondering what item he should get first, he notices a monster coming from behind, which is a red goblin, and it tries to attack him with its claws. But Yan easily counters its attack and rips his heart out by using the 21st form of the Dark Soul arts named Draconic Flames. He then uses his attack to burn the monster. As the monster is engulfed by flames, it lets out a loud shriek until nothing is left but its heart. The loud noise attracts more red goblins who are starving for meat. Yan sees the horde of bloodthirsty red goblins, and he believes that he finally got lucky. Since the bloodthirsty red goblins have what he is seeking, he leaps toward the goblins after seeing them march right onto him. As he is in the air, he casts a magical fire spell in his hand to cook all of the goblins. The goblins shout at Yan as they try to attack, though Yan simply grits his teeth as he unleashes his powerful attack. What he's looking for inside the goblins are magic crystals, which are usually used as accessories or magic items. But one day, something happened which caused the value of magic crystals to rise astronomically. A professor named Isaac published a thesis in the academy. He's an old man with white hair and looks as if he's nearly dying. Isaac discovered that humans can absorb the traits and mana of a monster using magic crystals. For example, the stamina from orcs, regeneration from trolls, and the strength from ogres. Due to such absurd claims, the world of academics oppose his thesis. And so the headmaster named Neuron asks Isaac to prove his thesis. Otherwise, he would have to be expelled. Professor Isaac proves it and manages to turn Neuron's frail old body into a muscular hunk. His thesis is then approved, which makes the whole continent excited. Due to this, monsters became more frequent in pharmacies rather than in dungeons. A person once asked the professor if absorbing mana stones has a complicated process. The professor answers saying that the process to remove the poison from the magic crystal is extremely complicated, since it needs either the flower of the moonbug or volcanic stones. But he explains that the absorption process itself is very simple. The only step to do is to just eat it, which Yan is currently doing. He complains about the taste, and that he never thought you would be eating monsters ever again. His solution to mitigate the poison is to eat the magic crystal with the heart in a 2-to-1 ratio. But he couldn't fully neutralize the poison, which makes him cough blood. Since the poison of the magic crystal is destroying his insides, he must use the divine dragon's breathing in order to slowly eliminate the poison. He successfully neutralizes the poison, and he decides to take it slow to prevent himself from being poisoned again. But suddenly, Cruel strikes from behind and seemingly hits Yan. His face lightens up after seeing him fall, and he smashes into the ground right after. Cruel thinks that even if Yan surprised him back then, he is still no match for him. So now, he will be taking the crystals. But he instantly realizes that Yan is gone and looks for him. Yan appears and tells him that hooligans like him are much more dangerous than monsters, which Cruel ignores and asks how he managed to avoid his attack. Cruel continues and accuses him of being a barbarian that eats monsters. Adds that if he shows his sincerity, then he would spare his life. Yan asks how he's going to show sincerity, and Cruel answers, saying that you should give him all the magic crystals he has gathered so far. He responds saying that he has no more magic crystals, but Cruel accuses him of lying. Cruel gets mad and says that he can easily kill him since no one else is present. Yan agrees with his statement. Menacingly repeats his words, saying that there is no one else with them. Cruel thinks that he is finally agreeing with him and asks for the crystals. But Yan simply dashes towards him and punches him with great force straight to the solar plexus, which knocks him out. While Cruel is unconscious, he remembers a place in his past. The place is the Dwight estate, which is his family home. At age 12, he decides to aspire to be the master of their estate after understanding the ways of the world. However, he was unfortunate to have two elder brothers that would stop him from being the head. His brothers were scared of him, so he was thrown into the Special Forces Training Center under the pretext of training. Their decision to put Cruel into the Special Forces made them unforgettable to him. Due to this, he's filled with immense hatred towards his two brothers, so he swears to exterminate all of them once he gets out. But his mind goes back to right before he was hit by Yan. The punch was so intense that he fainted almost immediately. He also puked blood all over the place, and so later on, they are at a place called the Valley of Snakes. Due to its singular slithering path, no one dares to approach this place, so no one knows where the end of the valley is. Cruel complains as he is walking. He is carrying a bag of dead goblins, and his neck is also leashed. He continues to say that such actions are not befitting of the true successor of the Dwight family. But Yan tells him to shut up and to move quickly, so he yanks the leash. He also says that he doesn't want him yapping about his family anymore. Yan mocks him and asks how long the young master of the Dwight family is going to continue whining for. Cruel complains, saying that he should also pull the goblins, but Yan replies, saying that it's punishment for attempting to kill him. So Cruel then asks why he is making him carry so many goblins, but Yan simply tells him to shut up and that it should be easy for him to carry since he uses mana. Cruel warns him that he can get punished by the Empire for making the noble do manual labor, and also calls him a barbarian. As he continued yapping, a rock was thrown straight to his nose. He squirms in pain, so Yan mocks him by saying that he thought nobles didn't feel any pain. While he's on the ground, he wonders who Yan is. At first, he thought that he lost because he had let his guard down, but after getting back up and cursing at him, he still got hit. He gets back up again with tears in his eyes, which resulted in him getting hit repeatedly. Yan tells him that if he did something wrong, that he should apologize so he would get hit less. His words caused him to become silent and fill him with rage, thinking that once he recovers his mana, he could kill him. Yan detects his bloodlust, so he looks back enraged, saying that Cruel didn't listen to anything he said. So he offers to teach him a lesson again. Cruel's bloodlust slowly disappeared after hearing his words and makes an excuse to escape his punishment. Yan calls him out for his excuses and threatens to beat him out if he doesn't comply, to which Cruel agrees. As they both walk, Yan thinks that Cruel is a bit strange, since he detects a small trace of bloodlust from him, though it's heading in all directions. Yan recalls an ominous magic that uses the same kind of energy. Just like there is black magic that uses the power of darkness, there are also demonic martial arts that use the power of darkness. With this power, you can obtain strength quicker than any other martial arts at the cost of breaking down the user's mana over time, turning the users into madmen once they eventually become devoured by the ability. It reminds him of Cruel's nickname in his last life, which is the Blood Star. He was notorious for committing evil deeds in order to succeed his family. Yan wonders if it's due to his martial arts, but he doubts it as well since he doesn't look like he learned it yet. Cruel requests that the leash should be taken off, though Yan refuses to do so since he might escape. But he replies saying that there is only one path, so it is impossible to do so. He also adds that he isn't an animal, and that it's weird to see two guys use a leash on each other. Cruel then asks Yan what the others would think if they get seen, which convinces him. So he proceeds to take off his leash immediately. Cruel tells him that it feels better to walk around without the leash, But Yan simply tells him that they have arrived, and that his role is now done. So Cruel asks where they are right now. Yan almost replies saying that it is the second treasure he needs, but stops midway. And he simply tells Cruel that the place is where a real treasure is hidden. He also adds that it is a monster instead of a creature, to be precise. Cruel complains that he carried so many corpses just for them to dump them into the abyss. After Cruel throws the corpses, he asks if it is all done, but Yan ominously tells him that he will give him some advice as a reward for working hard. He tells him that he should run to the gate quickly, without looking back. The reason he warned Cruel to run is because of the monster that lies deep in the abyss, whose eyes shine bright as it received the goblin corpses. Inside the abyss, there are scattered corpses of goblins. These corpses are all bloody and sliced up, and their blood was able to fill a magic circle engraved into the ground. After enough blood is supplied to the magic circle, it begins to activate. It then turns red as someone realizes that they have been disturbed. Its darkened face is lit up with fury as it tries to find the one who woke it from its slumber. It then lets out a very loud and creepy sound. Cruel hears the voice and asks Yan what he did. Yan tells him that the one who disturbed the monster was Cruel himself, and he adds that the monster is now coming. The monster then tells them to offer themselves to him. It then does something creepy as it seeks souls. Its bloodshot eye opens, looking enraged. Kazuya and Lorena feel the monster's strong presence, and they confirm it with one another. Lorena tells her that an unimaginable evil mana is spreading throughout the area, despite coming from the Snake Valley. Kazuya doesn't know what to do since it is her first time encountering such a powerful existence. So she asks Lorena how strong the monster will be. But Lorena simply tells Kazuya to change their plan, and that they will now head to the gate immediately, which makes Kazuya ask why such a random change was made. Though Lorena simply announces to the trainees that they will now return to the gate as soon as possible and dispose of everything unnecessary. The other trainees agree immediately, but Kazuya asks her why she is panicking so much. Lorena explains the monster's strength since Kazuya was asking about it earlier. So Lorena tells her that its strength is on par with the Patriarch. Kazuya couldn't believe what she just said, since the Patriarch's fighting abilities alone are always on par with the top 5 of the kingdom. And not only that, he is also the guardian god of the north. So Kazuya asks her again if the Beowulf's Patriarch really is on par with the monster's mana. Since if that were true, then the instructors also wouldn't be able to defeat such a monster. Meanwhile, at the instructor post, an instructor spots something flying around and points it out to the others, but his comrade simply tells him to stop slacking off. The monster then ominously states that something is not enough. Right after that, the instructors are killed in the blink of an eye. A trainee asks Roman what is happening in the test, but he shuts him up, saying that he should attack the monster first. They become surrounded by flames right after. The monster slowly becomes satisfied as it consumes more and more souls. Back at Lorena's party, everyone is making a run for the gate, but one person has his whole upper body cut off in an instant by the monster. Lorena tells the others to hang on, since the gates will be within reach right after passing the area ahead. But someone suddenly states that there is a voice he is hearing. The team then halts after hearing the voice and asks who it might be. It's a trainee who tells them that a voice in his head is asking him to offer his soul since it doesn't have enough souls. He tells the voice in his head that he agrees to offer his own soul, which quickly mutilates his body moments after his offering. Kazuya sees the trainee's body change and becomes alarmed. It then bursts into pieces, which splatters blood all across the area. Lorena asks if it is an ambush, but Kazuya informs her that it isn't, and that there is something happening in the distance. The blood from the dead trainee is floating mid-air and then forms a familiar pattern. Once completed, it becomes a magic circle that quickly activates. The monster tells them that it has found them already, which makes the other trainees suffer from extreme headaches. Lorien reminds everybody to be careful due to the dangerous foe in front of them. She nervously stares at the magic circle as she awaits the monstrosity that is about to emerge. The monster begins to come out of the circle while accusing of disturbing his slumber. Its head then comes out of the circle, revealing a skull hidden within a hood. As its body starts to take form, he thanks them for their service. Once his body is fully formed, it is revealed that the monster is an ancient lich. He then ominously tells them that he will thank all of them by giving them death. A long time ago, the mages were once saddened by the fact that human lives are finite despite magic being infinite, and so they became blinded by greed as they researched how to pursue magic eternally. As a result, they offered their souls to the darkness and obtained eternal life. With them also offering their bodies and killing themselves, they turned into undead, which is a being that despises all living things. After becoming undead, they become beings known as licks. After the licks' appearance, the weaker trainees feel their heads hurt, while Lorena stays vigilant and notices that the monster is not a normal lich. She realizes that this lich has consumed numerous lives and is a being that has existed for almost an eternity. So she questions how such a monster appeared in the trainee exam. Meanwhile, somewhere in the demon realm, the team of escapees led by Roman is asking him why they are suddenly running away. Ronan tells them to shut up and to simply look at their surroundings to see the answer. They realize that the corpses are of instructors, so they wonder who killed them. Ronan doesn't pay attention to what they are saying, and instead remembers Yan. He recalls something that happened right before they got teleported. Ronan approaches Yan and tells him that he looks better than expected for someone that was caught escaping as well, though Yan simply dismisses him. But Roman proposes that they team up in the Blade Mountain ranges since it would be dangerous to move alone. But Yan insists that he moves by himself, though he decides to tell Roman something, which made him intrigued. Yan continues and tells him to run towards the gate the moment they feel something terrible. As he recalls Yan's warning, Roman wonders whether this incident is his doing as well, and he also wonders what on earth he is doing right now. Back to Lorena and Takaya's team, the ancient lich asks them if they woke him up as he slowly approaches the party. This makes the other trainees freak out and decide to head to the third gate instead. Lorena then orders everyone to run away as she stands her ground. Cassia also tells her that she should get going too, but Lorena insists that she stays, so she readies her sword for a fight. She tells her that she will buy time for all of them to escape while charging up her mana. Lorena then requests Cassia to evacuate the trainees while she stays behind to fight the ancient lich. Cassia warns her that she can't defend against the lich alone, but Cassia remembers that she needs to survive in order to help her own family, which leaves her no other choice. So she runs away, telling Lorena that she'll let her handle the lich. As she runs away, she apologizes to Lorena for her coercice. The ancient lich calls Lorena a fool after letting all her comrades escape without her, then asks if she intends to fight by herself. Though Lorena keeps her cool and thinks of her chances of winning, she has only 2 advantages in the fight against the ancient lich. The first is her blessed mithril sword that is strong against undead monsters. But suddenly, she is interrupted by the ancient lich chanting words she doesn't understand. As the chant continues, several skulls with spines attached appear. It then forms a circle as the ancient lich completes the spell named Skull Magic Missile. Elixir then launches the spell as it tells her to die. Skulls then come flying towards her direction at high speeds, so she gets moving in order to avoid the skull missiles. She uses the skill wings of the Wind Swallow of the Dark Soul Mobility Arts to get past all of the skulls without a scratch. As more skulls head towards her, she unsheathes her sword to defend against the waves of skulls. After grabbing her sword, she throws it straight at the oncoming skulls, which brings out a blinding light once they collide. After the bright flash of light disappears, the lich is off guard, right in time for Lorena's surprise attack from behind. She slices the lich apart and manages to damage it significantly with one big slash. She reveals that her second advantage is that mages cannot cast both defense and attack magic at the same time, so she announces that she will have the upper hand once she makes use of those 2 advantages. But her certainty disappears once the ancient lich suddenly chants another spell. The spell it casts is a magic defense circle named Protect Wall, which greatly surprises her as she sees the lich double casting spells. But she immediately realizes that one of the lich's skulls is doing the chanting, which leads her to believe that the lich can cast magic as many times as the number of its skulls. While she is distracted, a skull sneaks up to her side and launches a powerful spell on her that manages to directly hit her. This attack causes her sword to fly away from her hand. As she becomes incapacitated by the lich, she panics after seeing that she is completely unable to move due to the lich binding her arms. The lich begins to approach her, yet her body is still unable to move due to the skeletons incapacitating her. The ancient lich then mocks her, for she has approached the lich without any backup, so she has now been captured. It then states that it will now destroy her arrogant soul as it casts a powerful spell onto her, which turns her into a living corpse that serves only him. The spell then starts to activate. Meanwhile, at the ancient lich's lair, someone is bravely wandering around in the darkness. The person encounters a flight of stairs leading to somewhere deeper into the lair. A person is dressed in thick fur with an ominous skull attached to its head. He says that the stairs are defenseless, so he decides to approach the stairs further. But he suddenly feels something beneath his feet. A magic trap has been activated to his surprise, which then casts advanced flame magic that lights him up in a burst of fire. The flames are enormous, so much so that they surround him completely, but he is still unmoving and seemingly unaffected. He then takes off his mask, revealing his blue hair in the process. The person is revealed to be Yan, who states that he has received such a warm welcome right from the entrance. So he's glad that he brought the volcano armadillo leather, which prevented him from burning to a crisp. He then says that there are a total of 492 traps, and 30 among them are moving traps. He explains his plan as he explores the lair, saying that he used the goblins to lure the lich out of its lair so he can now get his hands on the treasure while it's gone. Yan believes that he could not have executed his plan if he had not known about it from his time as the captain. Back then, he received a report after he had gone on an assassination mission. The report stated that the ancient lich was encountered during Special Forces training, which killed 900 trainees, leaving only 100 survivors. This huge loss placed the Special Forces in a critical state. After the incident, they were able to locate the lich as they investigated. They also discovered the lair, which was presumably built in ancient times and contained tons of treasures. These treasures entailed grimoires that would make you a sage, even if you read only one of them, and jewels that could make you so rich that you didn't need to work for life even if you only had one of them. Though Vion states that one important treasure was missing, it is a life vessel, which is an egg of mana that contains the lich's life and mana. This life vessel that was destroyed in his past life is still present in the current time. He then adds that the incomplete secret technique that the Emperor gave him only allowed him to absorb power, but he was unable to compress any of it. But if he had the life vessel, then he could use it to replace the missing function of compression, which completes the divine dragon's breathing. He believes that he could surpass his own strength in his previous life if he makes use of these incredible opportunities. Yan continues to explore the lair, and he finally comes across the place where the treasure is located, which is at the lich's altar beyond the huge door before him. It is also the bottom level of the lair. He recalled the contents of the report on how to get past the door. So Guy now tries to get past the door by throwing a dagger toward it. This dagger approaches the door, but disappears right before impact. The door then attacks Yan, but he skillfully dodges out of the way. Yan states that he has heard that there was a gatekeeper, so he deduces that the door itself is the gatekeeper. He is confused that it attacked him since he even input the secret code. The door tells him that the facial recognition has failed, and that you should verify again with the right face. So Gan gives up on getting through the door and finds another way around. The alternative way inside the altar stated in the report is near the pillar, so he tries feeling it out. He finds a button in the pillar and he pushes it, which reveals a hidden door leading to a staircase. This is a secret passageway designed especially for slaves to enter. Yan recalls that the lair is a labyrinth with a ton of traps, so it will take him a while to get through. Though he believes that a former Special Forces captain like him can do so with ease, and he also has plenty of time to spare since Lorena will buy him plenty of time. Back to the Lich fight. It is now in the process of activating the spell, which makes tentacles appear from the skull. Lorena berates and mocks the Lich as the tentacles approach her face, but the Lich simply looks forward to controlling her soul after he finishes the spell. The Lich tells her that he will rip her head off and use it as his livestock, and the rest of her body will be transplanted into an orc. So the Lich wonders if she will still retain her arrogance once he has done all of that, which severely disgusts Lorena. The ancient Lich then states that he will now begin, which causes the tentacles to launch towards Lorena, and it seemingly impales her head with the tentacles. Surprisingly, Lorena laughs, which takes the Lich back. She mocks the Lich, saying that he talks big despite tasting like crap as she bites into the tentacles. The Lich gets angry due to her mockery and casts another spell. He then proclaims that he will now turn her into dust due to her arrogance as he readies his dark annihilation magic. But he stops right before releasing the spell. Lorena wonders why the Lich suddenly stopped, though the Lich isn't paying attention to her anymore and pours its attention elsewhere. The Lich is nervous about a feeling he has right now because he has just detected that the barrier has been broken in the magical door earlier. So he wonders whether someone went inside the altar. The Lich then pulls Lorena closer as he accuses her of being bait. He then asks whether it was their plan to distract him while someone snuck into the altar. but she denies knowing anything about what he is saying. So the Lich gets angry and throws her to the ground after accusing her of lying. He walks away as he orders the skulls, orbiting him to open the gate back to the lair. The skulls then make a magical portal in the air. As the Lich is preparing to enter the portal, he states the coordinates to where he is going. He then steps into the portal to the altar. Lorena gets up with her aching body due to the fight, and she wonders where the Lich suddenly disappeared to. Meanwhile, in the Blade Mountain ranges and inside the Lich's altar, a magical circle pops up on the floor. The ancient Lich is enraged as he asks who the person trespassing is. With the air shaking due to the magical aura he is emanating, he shouts again, asking who dared to enter his altar without permission. The Lich couldn't believe that someone managed to get inside his lair as he had set up the traps inside for 1,000 years, leading him to believe that this was done by the Empire. As he looks around, he notices empty vials of elixirs that he had once stored. He gets even more enraged, and so he shouts, questioning who drank his elixirs. His rage is due to the fact that these elixirs are the best potions that he had refined in the last 1,000 years, which could reconstruct mana and physical bodies. He had prepared these elixirs for the sake of being revived as a human, but due to someone drinking and all, his efforts have now been wasted. A person behind him hears his rant and tells him that the potions he made tasted quite good. The Lich turns back as he realizes that the person speaking is the one that got past the barrier, though the person simply asks him to calm down with the elixir in his hand. The person is revealed to be Yan, and he is in a drunken state due to ingesting too many elixirs, so he offers the Lich a drink in his drunken days. He then tells the Lich that saving something for so long is just as good as wasting it. The Lich is dumbfounded after seeing the person that took his elixirs. He realizes that the person that drank all his elixirs is not sent by the Empire, but instead a dumb, wasted kid, which annoys him. Yan jokingly asks him if he got in the way of his fun on the surface, seeing how the Lich eagerly rushed into the altar, which triggers the Lich, and so he threatens to kill them all. But Yan mocks him, saying that he wouldn't even know if his lair was being raided. If he had just gone through the secret passageway, then he would have gotten away with everything, to which the Lich questions him as to why he would break the barrier instead. Jan stammers for a bit after hearing his question. The face of Lorena pops up in his mind, which implies his answer. He then leaps into the air and tells the Lich that he just felt like destroying the barrier as their fight starts. The impact of both of their attacks causes a bright red light to flash. After their initial exchange, Yan's still fine, and he mentions that he found ancient documents and books about mana hearts and energy cores, so he asks how he gathered all of those. The Lich ominously laughs at his question. Yan's eyes sharpen as the Lich explains how he gathered these texts. The Lich introduces his name as Momen. He explains that he had become an undead in order to take revenge, and he is prepared to do so for the last 1,000 years. Momen's eyes light up as he shouts at Yan for foiling his plans, despite having to face the humiliation of becoming an undead, in order to take revenge against the one who took everything from him. All of his efforts are now ruined due to him, but Yan doesn't pay attention to his speech and drinks another vial of elixir instead. As he sips the potion, he comments on how intoxicating it is, which leaves the Lich speechless. Momon gets fully enraged due to his behavior and berates Yan as he casts a spell to attack him. The Lich proclaims that he will vaporize all of his arrogance with a flaming attack called Crow's Breath, though Yan is fully calm in the face of the upcoming attack. He then orders Momon to stop with a decisive glint in his eyes. Mona's hand, which is bursting with flames, stops as he realizes something crucial about Yan. The Lich couldn't believe the energy of the mana coming from Yan. Yan laughs for a bit and confirms Momon's suspicion as he opens up his own shirt. Momon then berates him after revealing that he had used his life vessel. Yan smiles mockingly as he shows off the life vessel planted deep into his own chest, which allows him to gain a mana heart. The Lich gets mad after realizing that Yan actually ingested the life vessel. At the wide air of the altar, Yan is now swiftly running across the place, since he needs to dodge Momon's barrage of attacks that started once he had fully angered him. As the Lich chases down Yan, he tells him that he is impressed by his ability to run despite being weak, to which Yan replies saying that he has no choice but to run. Yan also explains that they will both die if he gets killed since he has his life vessel deep within his body. Momon tells him that he won't kill him, but instead, he will revive himself using his body. He tells Yan that it is only fair since he destroyed his 1,000-year preparation. The body that has absorbed his life vessel and all his elixirs will be of use to him. Yan gets shocked at the Lich's plans after he hears that it wants to use his body, but he takes it the wrong way and mistakenly thinks that Momon meant it in a romantic way, which annoys the Lich even more. Momon then tells him to give up and that he will take care of his body as he casts multiple magical spells at once. Yan is surprised to see that multiple magic circles appeared at the same time, so he is now left with no choice but to use the Divine Dragon's breathing technique in order to counter Momon's attacks. The magical circles activate, releasing fire directed at Yan. At the same time, he uses his mana heart to gain power, and in a split second, a barrage of attacks shatters the ground where Yan once was, causing various debris to fly up into the air due to the impact. Momon hasn't used such power in a while, so he doesn't know if he has killed Yan due to being unable to control its power. Yan appears from behind and mocks him for worrying about him. Momon then casts another spell stray at Yan, but he manages to avoid it by jumping up into the air. He then bounces around the ceiling at lightning speed, which surprises Momon as he thinks that Yan is only a weakling. At the broken barrier door, Yan escapes through it and smashes it more along the way. As he leaps around the lair, he thinks that the mana heart is well worth his effort. Thanks to the mana heart, endless mana is being circulated, which allows him to use Divine Dragon's breathing properly, with him consuming mana crystals and elixirs. Delicious life vessel as well, which he ingested by slowly merging it with his own heart. He will be able to return to his prime strength, or maybe even stronger this time. Suddenly, Yan notices something, and he stops in his tracks. Since there is now a dead end where the exit was supposed to be, Momon has now caught up with him due to the door disappearing, which is also a part of the Lich's trap. As the Lich gets ready to attack him once again, Yan now thinks that he would have to kill him. But that isn't possible for him to do right now due to his lack of tools and weapons at the moment. Momon gets ready to cast another spell. He is summoning a monster through a magic circle, which is a dragon skull that aggressively attacks Yan on the spot. A bright light flashes at the impact of the fight. Yan explains that he doesn't have a way of defeating the Lich. Even so, the monster was successfully killed, which is done by someone who suddenly entered the scene. There's a person Yan thinks that common sense doesn't work on, the Crown Prince Leon, who confidently tells Yan that he can handle the Lich. Leon states that he came to the lair as fast as he could after hearing that something happened during the training, but he didn't expect an undead monster to appear. The Crown Prince reprimands Momon for eliminating hundreds of promising trainees who are also his citizens. Leon aggressively proclaims that he will never forgive the Lich for what he did, though the Lich stays silent after all his statements. Yan then greets him, which urges Leon to question him about what he is doing at such a place, since he looks like a trainee. He then explains that he was tracking the Lich and got separated from the rest of his group, which makes Leon realize that he was the one who informed him of this location. Anne smirks, thinking that the prince's timing was perfect, so he thanked Roman in his head. Since before the test, he whispered an order to Roman telling him to report to the commander and the Crown Prince about the lair's location in case everything went wrong. The Lich then realizes that the body and energy of the prince are familiar, so he asks how the prince is related to a man named Bahamut. Leon then asks a question in return about why he knows the founding emperor's name, which shocks Momon completely. The Lich laughs aloud after hearing that the prince is a direct descendant of Bahamut. Momon then recalls that man's face when he praised him for making the Divine Dragon's breathing. Right after Bahamut praises him, he then orders Momon to die in order to keep the technique to himself. After recalling his bitter memories, Momon grins, since he can now take revenge on the descendant of his sworn enemy. The Lich recalls his memory from before he was brutally killed. He's at a library where he is practicing magical spells and skills. This is a time when Momon still had skin and flesh. At the time, Momon had always wondered about something: the energy core's stable flow and ability to maintain energy, and the mana circle's explosive amplification and ability to absorb. He wondered what kind of great power would emerge if these two were suddenly combined. So in order to quell his curiosity, he used the body of his friend, Bahamut, which was done successfully, resulting in new mana manifesting in his body. This was the birth of the mana heart. Bahamut stands still after gaining a mana heart. He then flexes his triceps, which urges Momon to tell him to put on some clothes. Momon tells him that he has noticed a major surge in his power, so he asks him that he noticed, to which Bahamut answers, saying that he notices and that he can create a new martial art. So the two then create a new martial art that makes use of the mana heart and name it after Bahamut's wish, which is the Divine Dragon's breathing. Momon then tells him that there are countless possibilities with the mana heart, so he must research more. Suddenly, Bahamut apologizes to him, which makes Momon question what he meant at. But before he could answer, he suddenly felt pain. Bahamut's hand pierced through his chest, which surprised him. He explains that this is where a Momon's role ends. Bahamut praises him for all the things he had done and even calls him a friend. He also tells him that the divine dragon's breathing couldn't have been made without him, so he now needs him to die since he knows too much. Bahamut leaves after greedily proclaiming that everything must only belong to him, and so time passed. Monon's soul is still able to persist even after death, and he wonders how long it has been since he was betrayed. He was only barely able to hold on to his soul with the weak mana left within him. With that weak mana, he was able to cast magic onto his rotting body with only one thought in his mind, which had been solely revenge, in order to bring punishment to those who had wronged him and the one who betrayed his trust. For that, he remained in his lair for 1,000 years, as the seasons changed continuously. Back to the present, the fight raged on as Moment bursts out of the door. It seems that he has taken some damage from the Crown Prince, so he retreated for a while. But after almost getting away, he notices something that surprises him. It is the Crown Prince that has swiftly followed his tail while riding a pillar. The pillar then broke into pieces after the collision. Momon counterattacks by casting multiple spells at once with the intention of turning Leon into fine dust. But the spells he cast all broke after mere seconds. It is due to Leon's skill, Golden Dragon's Descent, which managed to slice through all of the magical circles. Moon curses Bahamut for having a descendant that would get in the way of his plans once again, even after a millennium. Leo then curses the Lich for mentioning the name of the person he believed to be the great founding emperor. The two fly up into the air following their exchange. They exchange attacks back and forth as one side attacks with spells, while the other breaks the spell's cast. The instant that Moment casts a spell, it is hit by Leon's attack before it could even activate. Moment is at a loss after realizing that he doesn't have time to cast magic circles, so he thinks up another solution instead. He orders his skeletons to grab onto Leon in order to prevent him from moving. Leon sees attack, so he mocks Momon for thinking sorcery could hold him back. He then proclaims that this situation is better for him as he strikes his sword onto the ground. Because the skeletons are gathered in one place, it is much easier for him to attack all of them at once. After Leon attacks the skeletons, the magic circles that summon them broke. This enrages Moments, so he casts dark magic as he berates Leon, though the Crown Prince returns his curses with another attack as well. With the Lich using darkness extermination magic, and the Crown Prince using a skill called Ultimatum, they are able to create a bright, blinding light as the two powerful attacks collide with each other. This bright light even almost reached the ceiling. Yan watches the fight continue, and he is impressed their abilities to fight. He wonders which one is the monster after seeing that the Crown Prince is as strong as the Lich. Yan also notices that the sword energy from Leon's sword had a form befitting its dragon-inspired name, so he wonders if the form is actually influenced by the breathing technique. As he continues to fight, he also thinks that this is a good opportunity for him to see what the Crown Prince is capable of, since he might have to fight the Crown Prince in the future. Though he also thinks that he won't be fighting the prince for now, so he decides whether or not he should get away while the two are fighting in order to continue through his adventure. But an ominous voice appears from behind. Rodrigo Mayer suddenly grabs Yan's shoulder to halt his departure. Yan looks back with sharp eyes as he realizes that the voice is from Mayer. Rodrigo tightens his grip on Yan's shoulder as he mentions that he finds something strange. He thought it was weird that Yan was always in the middle of every problem, even when things were really messed up. Yan then interrupts his statement, and he calls him Captain Rodrigo. He stares blankly at Yan, pauses, and then speaks. The captain insisted that you should call him Sir instead of Captain, so Yan hesitantly agreed to call him Sir. Rodrigo then scoffs and criticizes the training standards for failing to teach basic manners, and specifically how to properly greet superiors. Yan flashes back to a memory of Damien and Rodrigo standing face to face. Although the instructor commander covered up the escape incident, the report had already been filed. Kevin Rodrigo looks at the paper given to him and is shocked to read that 4 trainees have escaped. The escapees were trainees with numbers ranging from the 10s to the 900s, totaling 4 in all. 2 trainees were caught in the nearby forest with their hands tied and faces covered. The Pursuit Squad 3, which had been chasing down the final escapee, had all been found dead, and the escaped trainee was nowhere to be found. Rogerito ends his flashback and points out that Yan was the last trainee in the escape attempt. Yan looks at him and stares blankly without saying anything. He later heard that the commander joined in the pursuit, which makes him wonder how Yan is able to survive all of these dangerous situations since he doubts that it is purely luck. Yan smirks, denying that it's just pure luck, which triggers the captain to place a sharp gaze on him. He laughed and attributed his incredible luck to good deeds done in a past life, which made the old man wonder how Yan was able to make such corny jokes at a young age. Yan then seriously explains to the captain that he had been threatened by the others during the escape, and that with the Lich, he was almost offered as a sacrifice. He then asks Yan if he really wants him to believe that it's all thanks to luck, to which he affirms. Yan acknowledged his good fortune, but then questioned if he would be penalized for being lucky. His response left him completely stunned and unable to comprehend what he had just heard. The old man was surprised by the audacity of his answer. He's impressed by Yan's guts, considering the fact that he is only ranked 974th, so he ponders if he is actually a hidden illegitimate child of a great family. Yan then asks if he wasn't going to help Leon, the Crown Prince, but he answers saying that it would be silly to help the Crown Prince in his ongoing fight, since he would only be in the prince's way due to the onslaught of attacks both sides are unleashing on each other. Yan realizes that the Lich's vessel had vanished, but he was still alive. He wondered if the Lich's survival was due to an incomplete absorption of the vessel. Perhaps, if he activated his mana heart to fully absorb it, then everything would be over. Liam then attacks the Lich with a powerful strike from the top aggressively as he announces that the fight is over. The Lich was taken aback by the attack, but managed to dodge it with surprising agility. Crown Prince Lu now questioned the Lich's unusual behavior and wondered why he was simply running and dodging his attacks instead of fighting back. The Lich, clearly annoyed by the comment, then snapped him to be quiet. He realized his mana reserves were dwindling and something was actively draining his magical energy. He then glared at Yan and jumped to the conclusion that he was the source of his mana drain. Yan noticed the Lich's accusing stare, but instead of reacting defensively, he simply gave him a thumbs up. He was now convinced that Yan was responsible for his dwindling mana, and he was furious that Yan had the audacity to mock him. Leon was stunned to see the Lich unleash his full power. The Lich, with a surge of raw power, began to rip open his own torso, a horrifying display of unleashed magic. The prince is now shocked to see what was about to happen to the Lich. As the Lich unleashed his power, a giant eye emerged from the gaping wound in his torso. The Lich, having unleashed his full power, now had a single deadly purpose to eliminate them all. Leon, with his eyes wide with shock, realized that the Lich is utilizing a domain expansion. A domain expansion is a skill that manifests the inner world of the user, and there are only 4 patriarchs besides the Emperor who could use this skill. Rodrigo and Yan, watching the unfolding scene, were equally shocked. The Lich then roared, and his voice filled with murderous intent targeting the descendant of Bahamut. Leon was overwhelmed by the sheer power unleashed, and wondered if the Lich's intent was to kill everyone, including himself. Yan stepped forward with a determined look and declared that he would not let everyone die. He then uses the full power of his mana heart to absorb all the mana of the Lich's life vessel. As he activated the full power of his mana heart, the Lich is now shocked as he felt his mana changing. Liam then saw an opening and decided to attack the Lich while he was caught off guard thanks to Yan absorbing most of his mana. He then confidently shouts his technique to attack the Lich, but his sword suddenly snaps and breaks in half once he strikes the Lich point blank. The broken pieces of his sword flew through the air propelled by the force of his attack. Hamoxlian's attack is futile since he believes there's no way that his attack would work on him. But Leon pays no mind as he stands still while chanting a new power technique to defeat him. This technique infused his own mana into his blade, which repaired his sword with newfound energy. He then blitzes the Lich, cutting him in half in just a fraction of a second with his new attack, while the Crown Prince's eyes burn with determination to defeat the Lich. His envy coughs as he delivers the attack to him. A shower of blood rained down and splattered everywhere. The Lich's body was dissolving and its form fading into nothingness, but still refusing to surrender. He stumbles toward Leon while his body disintegrates with each step as he states that everything is all crumbling down. The Lich extended his hand to reach Leon, while he ponders that everything will now disappear from his preparations, to the grudges he had grown just because of a kid. Leon's eyes blaze with intensity as his hand met his face. Moment then thinks back to his past and states that he would have been willing to give up his life to Bahamut. He repeats his monologue as his body slowly crumbles away, until his body fully disintegrated into a cloud of gray dust that dissolved into nothingness. A wave of relief washed over Leon as he confessed that the Lich had been a truly terrifying enemy. He then remembers that during the fight, the Lich had used a domain expansion, which makes him think that if the technique was perfect, then nothing would be left of them. The echoes of the fight faded, leaving Leon with the stark realization he was still far too weak. Rodrigo and Yan draw near him with the captain, nagging about his health, which triggers the prince so much that he asks him to stop nagging so much. Leon turned to Yan as he worriedly asked if he was hurt, to which Yan answered, saying that he is grateful for his help. Otherwise, he would have been dead. He then instructed the captain to take Yan to the medical team. The three of them then begin their retreat from the battlefield as Yan looks back at the events that had transpired. He is now able to create his own mana heart with the Lich's life vessel, and he also adds that it is good to see the Crown Prince's capabilities in action. A hint of a smirk touched his lips as he thanked Moment and acknowledged his crucial role in his progress. A sense of stillness settled over the battlefield as the retreating figures faded into the distance. The Lich's hood lay silent, but then a subtle luminescence flickered from its interior. As the day wore on, a heavy silence settled over the room. 2 wine glasses sat on the table as Yan suddenly mentions that he hasn't had a drink in a long time. As he read, he then mentioned that he used to drink that wine in his previous life. He leaned back while his legs found a comfortable perch on the table as he allowed himself to fully relax and enjoy the break. Lost in the peace of his break, the fight from the previous day seemed like a distant memory. He was amazed that such a grand mansion was his residence as a trainee soldier and felt grateful for the opportunity. He then reminisced about his cramped living quarters from the past and contrasted them with the spacious mansion he now occupied. His eyes remain fixed on the book as he remembers the events that happened when he received his test results. Back then, he recalled the ceremony where they were congratulated after the exams. An instructor explains that they should still be proud even if the first test was put to a halt due to an unexpected incident. He also states that they were able to bring the whole incident under control thanks to the prince's quick response. The trainees wishfully listened as the instructor announced that he would now reveal the ranks. High-ranked officers are gathered atop a terrace separated from the other weak trainees. While looking around, Lorena notices the commander's absence. The announcer continues and declares that accommodations would be assigned based on the trainees' rankings while reviewing the list. The monomers say that those who earned top rankings would be granted the privilege of entering the Imperial Vault that is located behind a massive door. Behind the massive door lay a collection of weapons and gleaming swords. The room boasted shelves filled with technique manuals, and tower and bookshelves overflowed with volumes of knowledge. He further explained that the floor they are allowed to access is directly determined by their ranking. Roman is surrounded by others as he expressed his disappointment at being ranked 5th. Cruel, who is ranked 4th, is grumbling about the fanfare surrounding the announcement, considering that trainees like him were not allowed to access the higher floors. Unlike others, Kazuya expressed satisfaction with her 3rd place ranking and having endured minimal losses during a competition. Lorena was ranked 2nd but remained silent and unreadable as the rankings were announced. The announcement of Lorena's 2nd place rankings sparked a flurry of questions and eager anticipation as the crowd wondered who had claimed the top spot. A cold and detached look settled on Lorena's face as she dismissed the rankings as inconsequential. She also admitted her helplessness against the Lich and revealed that the rankings were merely a superficial display. A sudden outburst of mockery from Cruel caught Lorena off guard. He continued to taunt Lorena, highlighting her failure to maintain her top ranking despite her arrogance. Cassius stepped in to defend Lorena and interrupted Cruel's mockery by explaining that his current behavior was likely a result of his unsettled state. He continued to mock Lorena and added fuel to the fire by mentioning a circulating rumor that she had not faced the Lich herself. He claimed that she only survived by begging for mercy. Lorena endured Cruel's taunts without responding, as her silence was a testament to her frustration. Cruel flinched at Lorena's unexpected answer and realized the truth in his own taunts, conceding that she lacked the power to defeat the Lich. She dismissed Cruel's mockery with a pointed reminder to focus on his own achievements, and then walked away. Her dismissal ignited Cruel's anger, prompting him to escalate his mockery and further demean her standing. Lorena's stride was interrupted, as her sudden stop was a testament to the impact of Cruel's insulting words about her not being able to replace the position of the dead Duke of Beowulf. Lorena called his name so he could get a hint to not probe further. But Cruel's mockery increased even further by accusing Lorena of aiming for the former Duke's position, which his brother should have gotten long ago. Lorena remained silent and absorbed all of Cruel's relentless mockery with a cold expression as he accused her of having a connection with the death of the Duke. Despite his smug smile, his mockery was abruptly interrupted by Lorena's sudden question. He met Lorena's cold glare as she asked him whether or not he would die at this moment. A surge of energy coursed through Cruel as he readied himself to unleash his full power. Energy crackled from Cruel's hands as he unleashed his power, his voice laced with resentment, as he had always hated Lorena for acting aloof. He then proclaimed that he'd rip off her cold mask from her face while he readied his attack. But a searing pain shot through his ear as he released his powers, which made him halt his attack. The man's grip remained unwavering, a constant source of excruciating pain that drove Cruel to a frenzy, with a desperate feeling to know who was behind it. Cruel's ear was slowly being ripped off. This made him even more enraged, so he shouted, asking who was behind him. The announcer's voice was heard through the stadium as he announced the name of the first-place finisher. The champion was Yan, who was also currently standing behind Cruel, with his grip on his ear unrelenting. Then the crowd erupted in a cacophony of shock and disbelief as the announcement of Yan's first-place victory reverberated through the arena. Whispers and murmurs filled the air as everyone discussed Yan's improbable triumph. Lorena, her voice laced with disbelief, wanted an explanation for Yan's first-place victory. The searing agony in his ear continued as Cruel desperately threatened Yan to let go. Chilling intensity filled Yan's stare as he stared down at him and indicated that his grip would not loosen. The sheer power emanating from Yan's gaze left Cruel, trembling with his head bowed in submission as he could not meet the victor's piercing eyes. Yan shifted his focus to Lorena and acknowledged their long-overdue reunion. The announcer's voice faded into the background as Yan and Lorena continued their animated discussion, their world seemingly unaffected by the conclusion of the test. A flicker of apprehension crossed Lorena's face as she observed Yan, and the fear in Cruel's eyes confirmed that this was no ordinary man. She could feel a palpable tension radiating from him, a simmering power that threatened to erupt in a sudden and explosive release. Though a torrent of questions surged within her, she could not resist the urge to address one pressing matter that led her to call out to him again. She suddenly blurted out that Cruel had been hurtling insults his way. Cruel's cries of pain echoed as Yan's grip on his ear tightened. His success in achieving the highest rank led to him being granted a prestigious accommodation, such a privilege reserved for the elite. He then mentioned that the book he was carrying was a rare and valuable artifact that had been retrieved from the Imperial Vault. An inexplicable feeling of unease washed over Yan as he detected unusual activity beyond the door. He then realized that someone was waiting outside the door and invited them in. As he welcomed the guest lurking outside his door, silence filled the room. But then a person enters, stating that he was stunned to realize that Yan had been aware of his presence all along, even though he thought he was concealed. The person who entered is the commander whose appearance signaled a confrontation, and he made it clear that there were unresolved issues between them. He settled into the chair with his gaze lingering on the wine before he grabbed himself a glass and took a thoughtful sip of it. Yan stood up and revealed that he had been expecting him to show up and had gone to the trouble of preparing the wine. Yan's teasing remark hinted that Damien's attempts to go unnoticed would be futile as his presence was unavoidable. The commander then states that he could not understand the Crown Prince's worry for Yan, especially since he has been keeping a watchful eye on his situation. The Crown Prince remained the subject of their ongoing discussion. Yan's eyes met his, and a prickling sensation of unease spread through him. He oddly swirled the wine in his glass, his gaze distant, while stating that he feels sorry for the Crown Prince. He states his debate over Yan's fate created an atmosphere of suffocating tension in the room. He then smirked and suggested a hidden hint of irritation as he revealed that he had received a report. Yan's gaze was intense, his curiosity piqued as he waited for the next piece of information. Humanama said that the report he received showed that the designated location was empty, and that the location they checked had been a ghost town for years. Yan reasoned that maybe the captain was aware of the surveillance and might have made a move to eliminate any trace of his activities. But his means of redeeming himself no longer mattered to the commander. The ground trembled as he stomped his foot, which was a menacing prelude to his attack. After announcing that Yam is no longer useful, he then unleashed his powers with primal fury and unleashed a torrent of untamed energy. The table exploded in a shower of splinters as he unleashed his powerful attack. He stared in disbelief as his attack seemingly vanished Yan into thin air, which left him shaken and confused. Yan appeared, seemingly untouched by the attack, his presence shrouded in an aura of invincibility. His eyes locked onto him with a mixture of shock and disbelief washing over him as he witnessed that Yan dodged his powerful attack. Yan's eyes burned with determination as he pulled out the book containing the crucial piece of the puzzle he had found. His eyes darted to the book, then a flicker of curiosity crossed his face as he listened to Yin's explanation of the puzzle. The book that he disclosed was a treasure he had acquired from the depths of the Imperial Vault. He revealed that his search had led him to the hallowed halls of the Special Forces Grand Library. The bookshelves held a vast collection of literature, dedicated training methods, and the study of monsters. He ruthlessly discarded books that didn't pique his interest. His search ended, and he froze mid-air as the book he had been searching for was finally in his grasp. His eyes scanned the cover of the book and confirmed that it was the Special Forces research logs he had been searching for. Yan also revealed that the book explored the enigmatic condition of blocked meridians, which is a state where the body's vital energy is trapped and unable to circulate freely. He stressed the urgency of addressing blocked meridians, as their persistence weakens the body's energy and can tragically lead to death. He seized the book from Yan and immediately immersed himself in its pages, while asking him what the problem was. Yan explains that he could not help but wonder what had prompted the captain to investigate such an unusual subject. He states that the captain's unusual interest in the topic had sparked his curiosity. Yan found it unbelievable and incredulous at the revelation that the captain would have blocked meridians. He speculated that his daughter's lack of energy and tendency to stay indoors might be due to blocked meridians. He surmised that the captain's interest in blocked meridians stemmed from a personal need to find a cure for his daughter's condition. Yana theorized that the captain kept his daughter hidden because her existence posed a vulnerability, but he later realized that was not the case. He also added that he relocated his daughter to a new place to find specialized medical care for her ailment. Damien was then growing increasingly frustrated by Yan's seemingly nonsensical theories about the captain. Yan explains that with this plan, they won't only be able to control the captain, they would also be able to take his life, which is much better, as opposed to keeping the captain in check. Yan continues, and states that no effective treatment has been found for blocked meridians, so he guesses that a substantial amount of potions is necessary to keep her healthy. The treatment's exorbitant price tag makes it impossible for him to pay, so he believes that he has ways to obtain money illegally. Anne suspected that the captain was using his connections with the Special Forces to acquire illegal funds. Anne theorizes that the captain is doomed if they were to find evidence that he is illegally acquiring funds from the Special Forces, and with that, they can easily hunt the old man down. Damien then suddenly brushes aside Yan's suspicions and claims that they were nothing more than wild guesses. Yan was unwavering in his belief that if their theory about the captain was correct, then they would have justification to kill him. Confident smirk played on Yan's lips as he thought about his plan. The instructor scrutinizes Yan and expresses a mixture of skepticism and uncertainty regarding the plans. But he changes his mind and decides to believe in him once again. He throws the book back at Yan with a sigh. Then Yan confidently catches the book that he threw at him. The commander tells him that he will look into what he has said using his connections in the investigation squad, and that Yan should learn more about the blocked meridians. Yan then smirks as he realizes that the commander has believed him, which is also due to the fact that everything he has stated is the truth. He knows that the captain used the Special Forces funds illegally for his daughter's condition, thanks to the uproar it caused in his past life. The Destructor Commander then suddenly had a random thought cross his mind. It seemed unbelievable to him that Yan would sacrifice all those weapons for a book about blocked meridians. Yan jokingly emphasized that the weapons held no value to him if he could be of assistance. He then walked away and headed out after their talk, and told Yan that he could skip basic training for the time being. Confusion clouded Yan's face as he tried to make sense of what he had just said. His eyes met Yan's, and he seemed poised to say something. A look of sheer disbelief washed over Yan's face as the commander declared his plans to make him his apprentice. A hint of amusement flickered across Yan's face as he considered the idea of being the instructor commander's apprentice. The commander went on to explain that he had grown fond of Yan, and therefore wanted to take an on, as his Yan saw this as a golden opportunity to draw closer to him. He humbly declined the incredible offer, then acknowledged his limitations in the face of such a significant undertaking. The commander was astonished by their refusal, especially given the subordinate's skill and his past successful ambush. With humility, he then acknowledged his capture and expressed apprehension about the potential negative impact on the commander's reputation. The commander's frustrated outbursts abruptly silenced him. He stated definitively that the apprenticeship had been decided upon, and subsequently exited the room with a forceful closure of the door. A stunned silence filled the room as Yan thinks that everything has gone according to his plan. Since he got the commander impatient, he grasped his locket tightly in his hands as he now believes that he has an opportunity to foster a closer rapport with the commander. He remembers the insignia on the commander's shoulder, and he now believes that he has a chance to get closer to the commander, which could lead him to his family's secret. A look of firm resolve came over his face as he committed himself to the task of uncovering all the secrets. A great day unfolded at the third arena. The arena is devoid of spectators and functions as an exclusive training ground for executive personnel. The arena maintained a tranquil atmosphere as Yan meticulously counted his exercises. Maintaining support with one arm, he then performed a series of upward and downward body movements accompanied by audible exertion. His commitment to exercise has resulted in improved posture and the attainment of 200 push-ups. Time passed, and he continued to perform his workout routine. The silence of the empty third arena pressed down on him as he finally stood and rested. He then looks at his body, and he could sense his body actively adjusting to the presence of the mana heart. The powerful muscles rippled beneath his skin, a testament to his efforts, and yet the agonizing slowness of the change gnawing on him. He glanced at the third arena's space and was grateful for his commander's support. The diverse reactions to the benefit bestowed upon him by his commanding officer occupied his mind. He anticipated both anger and friendliness from those who knew about his advantage. He also knew his situation would attract more stalking from his stalker, Lorena. Yan took the book he presented to the commander and added that it was merely from his true intentions. A slow smirk played on his lips as he grabbed the book he'd been searching for and craving. He then held a heavy black book filled with the history of the Empire's founding, which rested in his hands. Yan now possesses a powerful mana heart, and Yeki remained unable to achieve perfect proficiency in the Divine Dragon's breathing technique. It occurred to him that the successful execution of the dragon's breath technique necessitated the collaboration of both Bahamut and Momin. The recollection of the founding emperor served to underscore the necessity of his knowledge for the successful execution of the dragon's breath technique. Momon's death, on the other hand, had the prior theft of his ultimate technique as a reason for his vengeful liquid. He proceeded to open the book with the expectation that it might contain some indication of the divine dragon's breathing technique. Shock rendered him speechless as he gazed upon the book's contents. Contrary to his expectations, the interior of the book proved to be devoid of any inscriptions or markings whatsoever. Despite a thorough examination of each page, there were still no inscriptions discovered, making him wonder if the rumors he had heard were fake. Yan deduced that Bahamut probably didn't leave such information lying about since he had killed Momin just to keep it a secret. He pondered whether that was a possible explanation for the absence of information within the book. He continued to speculate upon alternative explanations for the absence of inscriptions within the book. Out of the blue, an inky black and shadowy hand lunged for Yan's head. The sensation of being grabbed made Yan spin around. However, there was no one and nothing behind him as he turned around to look. The emptiness was unnerving, especially considering the human presence he just sensed. His gaze returned to the book, and a thought occurred to him. The blank pages offered no clues, yet he had a sudden insight that might unlock the book's secrets. Without warning, he then attacked the pillar behind him with his shadow/technique. He remained alert after his attack managed to reach behind the pillar. He assumed an offensive posture and attempted to bisect the post, but concluded that his strength was insufficient for the task. Yan then conducted a comparative analysis of his performance against that of the instructor, and concluded that the commander's proficiency was significantly greater. He was stunned to hear a sudden voice from behind the pillar that was calling him a fool. The unseen person scoffed and claimed that Yan had no chance of solving the book's mystery. With deliberate slowness, he then began to appear before Yan. Stepping into the light, he then greeted Yan and remarked on their long absence before revealing his identity as Momon. Yan shouted in disbelief, unable to believe Momon was in front of him despite taking a powerful hit from the Crown Prince. With a confident air, Momon then explained to Yan that he'd grown stronger and wiser since their last match. Momon's measured steps were a prelude to the confrontation, and Yan still stood firm with a coiled spring of readiness. His words reduced him to nothing more than a crawling insect in Momon's eyes. A venomous glare shot from Yan's eyes, his teeth grinding together in a silent scream of fury. Momon then launched himself at Yan in a blur of motion. In a flash, she aimed a deadly strike at Yan, her intent to kill unmistakable. The unexpected attack made Yan grit his teeth in shock. As her attack launched on Yan, Momon's form rippled and changed in a terrifying metamorphosis mid-strike. Momon's sudden transformation was noticed by Yan and shocked him. In a shocking twist, Momon's body had now changed into the form of a mysterious girl who then unleashed a brutal assault. Yan cautioned himself against being missiled by Momon's outward appearance. He braced for the blow, but instead of impact, a chilling coldness washed over him as Momon's ethereal form pierced his very being. Momon's laughter echoed as she passed through Yan's body again and again, leaving him completely stunned. He briefly considered the possibility of a ghost, but ultimately decided it was merely a figment of his imagination. Yam realized Momon might have become part of his thoughts during the life vessel's transformation into a mana heart. While he knew her lack of a physical form made her non-threatening, her constant noise was driving him mad. His voice, edged with frustration, demanded an explanation for Momon's persistent haunting of the living world. Yan's words provoked a resounding peal of laughter for Momon. With a joyful comment, she then declared the joy of having a body again, and contrasted her previous existence as a corpse with her restored appearance as a magic scholar. A proud stance marked her return to human form, a transformation she attributed to the influence of Yan's mana heart. A chilling threat hung in the air as she floated and promised the annihilation of Yan and the entire Bahamut bloodline. Her eyes burned with a sadistic light, and a chilling smile twisted her lips as she intended to torture every one of them. Yan's eyes blazed with defiance as he met her stare. He pressed on the mystery of her shrinking form, while airborne deepening his confusion. Observing the stark contrast between her former and current appearances, he questioned her ability to enact revenge in her diminutive form, playfully mocking her appearance. She attributed her inability to assume her true form to the insufficiency of his magical power. Her frustration boiled over as she yelled about his pathetically low mana reserves, despite having drunk countless potions. Yan stroked his chin and concluded that she posed no immediate threat for the time being. The fake transfer of mana revealed a connection, signifying her power to influence him. He knew he would be utterly powerless if she chose to manipulate his mana against him. Manin planned to strike Yan while his thoughts were elsewhere. She abruptly ceased her movement as Yan looked behind him. Desperation fueled Yan's actions as he grabbed the book, driven by a lack of other choices. Addressing Momin, he then said goodbye and expressed his pleasure at having met her before returning her to her own world. Momin was anxious because Yan threatened to cut off her food source, which would cause her to vanish. To eliminate her, he then detailed his plan to decrease the mana flow from his mana heart, which is her current life source. Yan believed that doing so would prevent her from maintaining her cognitive form. A furious glare shot from Yan's eyes as he wished her to vanish because her era had ended long ago. Monin gritted her teeth, furious at the injustice of her struggle for survival. She was fueled by anger and refused to disappear so easily. Her angry shouts echoed through the arena as she vowed that he would regret her disappearance. She pointed the conversation at the Bahamut book in his hand because she knew that he craved its hidden knowledge. Yan recognized the truth in her words. He deliberately cut his palm with a knife flashing in the dim light. A crimson stain bloomed across the page as his blood dripped down. Oman stood before him and directed his every move as he let his blood drip onto the book's pages. Pulling back her hand, she then gently channeled a bit of mana into the bloodstains on the book's page. The blood on the book's page began to morph into words with a slow and mesmerizing transformation after her spell. His gaze fixed on the book, and he waited patiently for the words to materialize. He started reading the words, but the sentence's meaning eluded him. Yan could not believe it was just meaningless scribbles, because it was written by the founding emperor. A look of surprise flashed across his face as he spotted something in the book. The words on the page detached themselves and started rising into the air in a mesmerizing display. Ian stared in disbelief as the floating words were formed into a new sentence. Without warning, the floating words flowed into his body. The words converged and started to gather within his mana heart. The words then proceeded beyond the existing mana heart, resulting in the creation of a new one. In a moment of utter disbelief and shock, the book slipped from Yan's grasp and fell to the floor. The chaos vanished, replaced by an unsettling calm air, and Momon's gaze was one of puzzled bewilderment at Yan's stillness. He checked his body and found no abnormalities, yet the conviction remained that it had been no ordinary illusion. His gaze lingered on the book, and a deep curiosity stirred as he pondered what mysteries Bahamut had concealed. Yan set off on foot with his destination uncertain. Yan turned his back on the arena and beckoned Momon to follow him as they searched for an answer. His expression was vacant as he regarded Momon, yet his resolve to provide her with an alternative physical form, thereby liberating her from her parasitic state, was unwavering. Mona listened, and they would seek a solution together. A smile spread across her face as soon as she realized she'd be going with him. Her bubbly voice danced with curiosity as she questioned Yan about his abrupt change in attitude. With a serious expression, Yan then warned her not to get her hopes up too high. She then affirmed Yan's request to maintain a conventional demeanor. A sinister smile twisted her lips, betraying her lack of genuine concern for Yan's plight. A cruel plan formed in her mind that if she had sufficient mana, she would instantly dispose of Yan. Then a cruel smile played on her lips as she stood behind Yan unnoticed. As they walked, a sudden chilling decision took root in Yan's mind that he would erase Moment without delaying any further. The bickering persisted throughout their walk. A quiet afternoon settled on the forgotten old place. The beauty of the sunset highlighted the abandoned place's decay, with a cool breeze that made the leaves fly. A fist seemed to materialize from thin air and punched the space. It was discovered that Yan had been practicing his punches in the abandoned place. The speed and force of his punch created a visible disturbance in the air as he continued to practice his punches. With grueling intensity, he then practiced both punches and kicks with unwavering dedication non-stop. He was completely absorbed in his practice, and his movements were a blur of punches and kicks. Waves of exhaustion crashed over him, leaving him gasping for air and rooted to the spot. A figure materialized before him and silently watched his training. The person watching was his commander and instructor, who was carefully assessing his skills. A fierce look crossed Yan's face as he braced himself to strike. With a sudden burst of speed, Yan then attacked, but the commander stood firm, just awaiting the assault. As he stood still, a sudden burst of energy erupted from the soles of his feet. Yan's eyes widened in disbelief and narrowed into a fierce glare as he registered the commander's actions. The commander invoked his powers with a raised hand and a chanted incantation. With incredible speed, his power then transformed into a sword, and he stood his ground. With the sword held high, he then waited patiently for Yan to close the distance. With blinding speed, the commander then swung his sword as Yan drew near. Upon perceiving the imminent attack, he defensively shielded himself with his arms. The attack was imminent, and he desperately shielded himself with his arms. The powerful attack had cut through the bars, leaving them broken behind him. A blinding light erupted from the attack behind him. It grew steadily brighter and brighter until its light was too intense for their eyes to bear. Their settling down brought an end to the brightness. The commander laughed, amused that he'd almost killed him despite restraining himself. Yam's trouble deformed the words, his exhaustion evident. Inverted and fuming, Yam then angrily reiterated his earlier instruction against life-threatening moves during their practice session. As the commander detailed their recent sparring, Yan's then straightened up and his body regained its composure. Images of the books he pored over flashed before Yan's eyes as a stark reminder that without their knowledge, he might have been left only with his lower body. A whispered compliment about the commander made Yan turn around. Momon's sudden appearance and whispered praise startled Yan, who then immediately tried to send her away to conserve his dwindling mana. The conversation about the Special Forces commanders stirred a feeling of recognition within Momon that his energy felt strangely familiar. Yan's explanation of the commander's lineage left Momon speechless, realizing he is the founding emperor's descendant. Momon then attacked the commander, but only Yan could see her entirely. The commander's smile was gentle, a reflection of his pleasure in the light-stretching session with his apprentice. Yan listened intently as the commander explained that the technique was the first Black Shadow art. With a mocking tone, the commander then pointed out that no trainee had survived to see the second technique, because all of them had perished after seeing the first. The commander's glare was intense with a silent challenge as he wondered just how many of his techniques Yan could survive. A smirk touched Yan's lips as he considered the commander's assessment. As the evening deepened, the commander explained that mastering all the techniques you would teach Yan would take decades. Adjusting his gloves, Yan then assured the commander that he did not need to be concerned by the number of techniques that he teach him. Yan's confident and dashing expression told the commander to worry about what would happen after he had shown him all the techniques. Dawn had arrived and painted the sky with the bright hues of a new day. A flurry of attacks rained down on Yan from the commander, but he still received each one. The sky opened up and showered them with rain, yet their rigorous training session showed no sign of ending. A surge of power flowed from Yan as he prepared his assault, the energy coalescing into a weapon in his grasp. A grim set to his jaw, Yan then stood poised and ready as he unleashed his attack with controlled power. The days blurred into a routine of training under the commander's tutelage, and the time seemed to slip away unnoticed. 2 years have flown by. The announcer made a grand entrance and revealed the top 50 trainees' combined rankings displayed on a magnificent staircase. However, the latest tests showed no significant differences compared to the previous one. Although the trainees are working diligently to improve their positions, Yan consistently maintains his top ranking. Meanwhile, Lorena struggles to keep up and finds herself falling behind despite all her efforts to surpass the others. Lorena cannot swallow the fact that her name is not written on the top ranking spot. Yan suddenly vanished into thin air after the day of the announcement of the ranking. Lorena is filled with confusion as to why he is consistent in the top rank, even though he does not show up in any of their training sessions. She then questioned herself about what he was doing all this time, that he can train all by himself, but then always comes out the best of them all. Lorena grips her hand in anger as she wonders where he could possibly go after disappearing in such an event. The next test has finally arrived, and she is filled with determination to surpass him in the rankings. She then slashes her sword beautifully while defeating a monster in her sight, thinking that she can finally be the best trainee and overshadow Yan. Lorena may strive for the top, but Yan's hold on the helm is immovable. Driven by desperation, she made a desperate gamble by choosing to engage with a rank monster. A captivating-looking cat suddenly turns out to be a demonic, wicked-looking long cat. The monster charged at Lorena with his human-like hands so swiftly that an ordinary trainee cannot dare to face it. The monster's shadow stretched across the ground as it charged forward, but suddenly a flash of a blade erupted from the darkness. The monster is dismembered in a blink of an eye, its parts scattering across the ground. Loretta furiously waits for her next opponent, fixated on the unfinished battle with Yan. 2 years ticked by, and the last test happened at the third arena as two individuals tested their skills on each other. It is revealed that the final test will be a showdown against one of the instructors themselves. This was not just any ordinary test, and it was a crucible, as this is a trial by fire that would determine who would be deemed worthy to join the elite ranks of the Special Forces. The skill and ferocity shown after the fight would be the sole factor determining their fate. The grueling training stretching over an eternity had begun to wear on the trainees, leaving them bored and exhausted. As the complaints rippled through the ranks, Lorena then walked in the arena, while others deemed the test too daunting, and the test was a mere formality for her. High-ranking soldiers like her could effortlessly outmaneuver even the most skilled instructors in the arena. Lorena has remained undefeated for the past year, with no instructor managing to overcome her. It has been a long day for all the trainees, but it appears that this is a piece of cake for her, and she must still participate in the test to be accepted into the Special Forces. The test is mandatory for all trainee soldiers, so no one is exempt, not even the most capable trainee. She wonders if Yan will also have to take the test while assuming he's likely required to participate. This is Lorena's opportunity to gauge Yan's true strength if he decides to take at the test, as her anger grows the more she waits for him. Suddenly, a voice pleading for mercy to stop the fight pierced through her thoughts, leaving her bewildered. There is a voice she hears as the instructor and realizes that the evaluation is over and calls out to the trainee, demanding they stop fighting and finally take a seat. The evaluation is completed, but the trainee, consumed by rage, suddenly attacks the instructor with a sword. The trainee extended his claws and refused to accept the fight was over, believing that running away was not a victory, and the battle raged on within him. The one fueled by rage was Cruel Dwight, and he is a high-ranking soldier who held the third-place spot in the overall rankings. He's already consumed by his anger and insists that a true battle could only end with the death of one combatant. Dwight menacingly looked at his opponent while he mocked the instructor's uniform, declaring the man too weak to wear it. The instructor is stunned by Dwight's disrespectful words and feels a jolt of anger. Before he could react, Dwight then slashed at him with his sharp claws. The instructor was caught completely off guard and had no time to plead for mercy. The attack was swift and brutal, and it was too late to avoid. Lorena watched the whole thing with a mixture of disgust and disbelief twisting her features. Dwight's actions in her eyes were not those of a powerful warrior, but of a desperate man making a fool of himself. A ripple of agreement went through the audience as they witnessed Dwight's behavior during the evaluation. Even a fellow high-ranked trainee soldier, Roman, visibly recoiled and crossed his arms in disgust, thinking that Dwight is quite arrogant and entitled. Cash redeemed the instructor's pairing with the arrogant, cruel, unfair, and requested Roman's assistance as she joined the arena to watch. Roman's hesitation stemmed from past incidents where instructors had killed low-ranking soldiers, and Cassia perceived this as fear, a claim Roman refuted. Lorena initially perceived him as having a disagreeable personality, but somehow he proved to be less volatile than she anticipated. He killed the instructor who had recently trained him, and the gruesome details were seared into her memory, and she believes he's been mentally unstable for 2 years. Meanwhile, disagreement still persists between Roman and Cassia regarding the appropriate course of action concerning Dwight's behavior. With graduation looming, the last thing anyone wants is a scandal involving the powerful Dwight family. While Lorena's serious expression underscores this, the arena battle was interrupted when Dwight's fierce blow shattered the instructor's sword. The instructor collapsed after a devastating blow, while his shattered sword lay abandoned on the ground. Dwight asserted his dominance over the instructor, claiming victory even without the use of weapons, and subsequently engaged in an attack while the instructor begged for mercy. With eyes shut, Lorena then silently entered the fray, conjuring icy spikes to block Dwight's path. The ice spikes barring his path left him uncertain how to proceed with his attack on the instructor. Lorena wants to keep things quiet, but she can't just ignore what Dwight's doing. She will ensure her conduct remains beyond reproach in relation to the Dwight family, while simultaneously demonstrating exceptional skill called Beowulf's Supreme Technique in the arena. Lorena makes sure that she doesn't make a single sound while giving a furious look at Dwight. The predatory laugh escaped Dwight's lips as he bared his teeth, which are pointed and sharp like a shark's, at Lorena. Dwight is fueled by anger, making him really want to teach her a lesson before graduation, and he sees this as an opportunity to raise his ranking. His glowing eyes held a sinister light as he bellowed Lorena's name, leaving no doubt this was her ultimate test. The sun shines in the arena, and the fight between Lorena and cruel Dwight continues. He's criticized by Lorena for his lack of challenging opponents, and she asserts her own superior strength and willingness to engage in a tougher fight. Dwight chuckles, his face partially hidden, dismissing her confident attitude as typical arrogance. Lorena watched Dwight laugh. Then a growing unease settled over her as she sensed the escalating death energy emanating from him. While smiling menacingly, Dwight then makes sure to humiliate and wipe her from existence during this fight. Lorena prepares for battle, weapons at the ready, but Dwight's superior claw-based fighting style quickly proves decisive, and she even gives him a chance to use a sword as a gesture of mercy. The two locked in a desperate struggle, and the air filled with the deadly dance of their weapons, while their every strike illuminated the arena. As Cassia and Roman observed the evenly matched combatants, Roman felt a shift in momentum, believing that Lorena was now in the lead. Roman is observing carefully and concludes that Dwight will struggle to close the gap within the next 30 moves, while Cassia agrees and hopes that is the case. They notice Cruel is giving off a strange energy unlike anything seen before from either the Special Forces' dark shadow arts or the Dwight family's techniques. Cassia realized that the energy really wanted him to kill his opponents, unlike Lorena's technique. Roman's teasing response to Cassia reignited their argument about their respective positions. A disagreement persists regarding the importance of the third-place ranking for them. Roman suddenly revealed Cassia's dirty secrets during their dispute. He stated that she created a private organization of commoners and countryside nobles, and Roman sees it as a fan club, rather than a private organization. Cassia then also revealed Roman's secrets. She uncovered that Roman is secretly recruiting trainees who are slaves and creating an army out of it. Her intense curiosity about Roman's personal matters annoyed him, and yet he leaned closer to her. Just as their argument was about to reach a boiling point, suddenly a voice of the defeated cut through the tension. Dwight's defeat brought relief to Cassia and Roman, while a sword pressed against his throat sealed his fate. Lorena's victory over Dwight served as a harsh lesson that pretending to be invincible can lead to devastating consequences and to be humble at all times. Despite his outward agreement, a nagging doubt and a dark entity whisper that he was destined to fail again, leaving him stunned. The dark entity laughs as it manipulates him into believing that allowing anyone else to succeed would result in the complete loss of everything he possessed. He was reminded by the dark entity that while he lost everything, fighting and conquering all would restore his former wealth and power. The dark entity that previously unleashed Dwight's savagery has returned, making him overwhelmed once more. Another burst of laughter from Dwight left Lorena staring at him, a mixture of confusion about what resolve he was talking about, and perhaps a touch of annoyance on her face. The resolve Dwight is talking about is to kill himself and impale his own neck against Lorena's already pointed sword, leaving her horrified. He was driven to such desperate measures because losing everything was unthinkable, and death seemed preferable. Dwight's suicide attempt set Lorena into a panic instantly followed by a brutal ambush from the dark entity that had consumed him. His assault fueled by the dark entity was so powerful it sent Lorena flying and left her unconscious. With Lorena's life hanging in the balance, Dwight raised his weapon for the final and decisive blow. But before it could land, a new entity appeared, its presence abruptly halting Dwight's attack. With a startling transformation, the entity became a black wolf after deflecting the attack and plunging him into a state of utter confusion. The entire scene unfolded before Cassia and Roman's eyes. The sound that followed, a wolf's howl, sent a jolt of unexpected recognition through them. A wolf transformed into a man just in time to prevent Lorena's fall after she lost consciousness. The man was none other than Yan. Yan's unexpected appearance continued to astound everyone. Injured Lorena awakened in Yan's arms. She was taken aback by the help she received from the man she was competing against. Dwight viewed the situation as a chance to face stronger competition following his demonstration of ability, but Yan offered no response and simply stood silently. Under the watchful guidance of his black ghost wolf, Yan gave Lorena a chance to rest. Dwight still gave that creepy look, and Yan noticed he hadn't changed one bit in 2 years. Moen displayed an interest in Dwight, notwithstanding the latter's demonic influence, and Yan also agreed with her. They both caught a glimpse of the demonic dark entity that influenced Dwight, and it was now their chance to fight it, before the demonic entity became stronger, and Dwight eventually became a demonic human. Dwight laughed at them and looked at them with his illuminating creepy eyes while they were still observing. Then he suddenly leaped and attacked Yan with a surprise. Yan was concerned about Dwight's future, and warned him that he would regret this if he attacked with his sharp claws. The impending confrontation between Dwight and Yan was abruptly halted by an unexpected voice calling for silence. That voice mocked Dwight for being arrogant in the past 2 years. He felt that familiar energy from the man who disrupted their fight, and that mysterious man was going to make the final announcement. The man was none other than the instructor commander himself. The instructor commander looked at them with his sinister eyes and told them that it was such a waste of time to die right before their last day. The sun was finally about to set and the walls of the arena stood tall. The instructor commander congratulated them for surviving up until now. As he stood on the upper floor of the arena, he announced that the batch started with 10,000 trainees, and there were only 200 left during this period. The 200 trainees stood strong in front of the instructor commander, and he thought that those who were left were a decent result. The commander also announced that their strength and skills made up 50% of their final evaluation, while the remaining 50% was based on their mana estimation. The instructor commander happily announced that they were no longer trainee soldiers and deserved to be called something other than a trainee number. They now have the right to be Knights of the Empire as full-fledged knights. The Empire Knights are people who are able to control mana. There are a total of 10 ranks to measure how strong the knights are within the Empire. Rank 10 is a knight who has learned how to use mana. Rank 9 is a rank that possesses an energy core or circle. Rank 8 knights are able to resonate with their sword's name, and rank 7 knights are able to manifest energy onto items. Rank 6 knights are able to imbue energy onto a sword or their body, and rank 5 are knights who are able to focus their sword aura into a sword blast. The 4th rank consists of knights who are able to use an enhanced sword aura. The instructor commander finally wrapped things up, and the results of the evaluation would be announced. He also finally announced the training of the highest overall evaluation, which was Yan. As the ceiling of the academy stood high inside the hall, Yan's knight rank was announced. His rank was the upper rank trainee's accommodation, and it had been 2 years since he had a decent accommodation. Mona then politely asks what that knight rank is all about, and Yan is quite disappointed by her lack of intelligence about ranks. Yan briefly explains that those ranks did not exist 1,000 years ago, and they have given a rank to the knights like a circle of magic. He also included that most of the trainees would only reach rank 7 or 8, while a flashback of the previous trainees is shown. Though the rank does not look high, they are still at a level where they are capable of taking out most demi-human monsters. Lorena and the other three are the elites that belong to rank 6. There are very few people within the training center who can defeat the 4 of them, and to become rank 6 at their age means they are elites among the elites. While Yan is explaining, Lorena suddenly walks in and notices he has changed a lot after those 2 years. Lorena greeted Yan, and also noticed his hair had grown very long as they looked into each other's eyes. Yan suddenly said that Lorena has grown a little shorter, and an awkward silence occurred. Lorena thanked Yan for saving her from the fight after that silence, and Yan told her that there is nothing to worry about. Yan worries about the injuries she received earlier in her fight with Dwight. Lorena's anger erupted unexpectedly, and she was upset by his earlier involvement in their battle. Yan is visibly confused at that point. Lorena points out that he is in the 5th rank, but it doesn't mean that he needs to help her, and rank is just a rank. The Empire's rank 5 is the people who are about to attain enhanced sword aura, and most knights can only dream of it. Although there are some rank 5 knights within the Empire, the only person who's achieved rank 5 is the current Crown Prince Leon with his dragon entity by his side. She proceeds to leave while teasing how ugly his hair looked that day, and Moment bursts into laughter as Yan notices that she is so easily angered. Lorena knew that she had done something shameless as she recalled her brother is a rank 5, which is a testament to skill, not age. She does not want to admit that he is better than her brother, and she knew it was childish. Moment is still bewildered that being in rank 5 is such a big deal for everyone as Yan looks at his hair and notices that it is indeed a little too long. She said that Yan no longer has to hide his strength. If he did show everyone his true potential, then he could exceed rank 5. But hiding this much power and skill is perfect for now to blend in with other knights. Yan smiles because his plan is to get moths gathering around him like how they are attracted to flame. As the sunlight brightens the dark staircases of the training center, the instructor commander and the senior instructor walk to the wide red carpet. The commander is too much in favor of Yan and thinks that the other trainees must be discouraged because of him. He's also impressed by the black wolf that Yan has been carrying around and the black shadow sword art he uses. But another instructor notices the instructor commander's behavior. The senior instructor confronted the commander, saying that favoring only Yan will disrupt the order within the training center. The instructor commander seems unsatisfied with the senior instructor's confrontation, and he questions that since he became a senior, he's become fearless. A senior instructor apologizes and obeys the commander's orders. He thinks that it is hard for them to trust the judgment of the instructor commander. The senior commander decides to take care of Yan with his own hands. In the dark room, where the doors are shut and the chandelier reflects the sunlight from the window, Yan is having a peaceful rest in his bed in the dark corners of the room. As his face looks toward the sunlit window while sleeping, his coat is widely open. Suddenly, there is a silhouette that appears before his face and looks at him with an ominous look while quietly laughing. It was Momon standing above him, whose goal was to take over Yan's body while he was asleep. She'd been gathering her strength and waited 2 years for this opportunity to take over his body, thinking that Yan must have forgotten it. With an ominous look towards him while casting a spell, she plans to brainwash him first. She casts a spell called Mindbreaker and slowly begins to brainwash Yan. She won't rush, and bit by bit she will eventually take control over his body. While she is complacent that she will finally take over Yan's body, he wakes up suddenly. Yan looks at her with his eyes furiously, and his black wolf is ready to bite her anytime at her back. Momon laughs awkwardly and says she was only trying to test if his mana is circulating very well. Yan obviously did not believe her. He warned that if she did this again, he would turn her into dust. She is furious because Yan keeps delaying his promise of getting Momon her body back. While they are arguing, a knock on the door suddenly can be heard, leaving them both speechless. The person outside who is knocking is looking for Yan. Yan is confused as to why anyone would knock at his door late at night, but he opened it anyway. He opens the door and finds a senior instructor alone in the dark, saying that the instructor commander is looking for him. The instructor ordered Yan to follow him while giving him an aggressive look. Then the senior instructor brought Yan into the dark shopping alleyway. Every shop was closed, and everywhere you looked there was darkness. They proceeded to walk into the darkness of a shopping alleyway, and Yan asked why instructor commander was looking for him. He also asked why he wanted to meet him in this place late at night when the tests were already over. The instructor acted like he did not hear any of his questions. Yan finally asked the instructor if the instructor commander really wanted to meet him. Then the instructor suddenly drew a shiv hidden beneath his sleeve and stabbed it as hard as he could. He was nowhere to be found when he leaned back to his surprise. Yan moved so rapidly that he outpaced the instructor. He had no time to react when Yan performed the seventh form of the Dark Soul called the One-Inch Punch, sending him flying. Senior Instructor looked defeated at that point from Yan's effortless punch. He immediately asked Yan why he already knew this was a trap that he set up. Yan already knew his intention to kill him in the alleyway and mock the instructor for his cover training, making the senior instructor clearly offended. He realized that the sword Zack was holding emitted a crimson-colored sworn energy, and the only people capable of using that sword energy are senior instructors. Yan asked calmly if the instructor commander knew about his actions, and if he was ready for the consequences of what he was doing right now. Senior's instructor Zack kept getting irritated at him and found Yan's arrogance unwarranted, given his recent promotion to the 5th rank. Out of nowhere, 3 senior instructors appeared behind him with the intent to kill him. Yan smiled at them, knowing he could defeat them all at once. In shock and turn of events, he then fell in defeat after he confidently thought to himself that he would win against them. Moment asked him what he was doing out of confusion, but Yan told her to keep her mouth shut. Yan begged the instructors, asking why they were doing this to him while his body was tied. The other senior instructors were in a hurry to end him and leave the alleyway immediately, while Yan still asked what the reason was for killing him. Senior instructor Zack stood in front of him quietly. He finally revealed the reason why they were planning to kill Yan. A recollection from 2 years prior intruded upon his present consciousness, and he remembered Yan facilitating the escape of several trainees, an act that resulted in the death of his brother, who was an instructor at the facility. Consequently, he was driven by a profound need for revenge, and Zack had been waiting so long for this day to come. He would kill Yan to appease his brother's soul. Zack was about to slash his sword against Yan, but his companion, who turned out to be the Black Wolf, bit the blade. The wolf prevented the senior instructor from attacking Yan with his sword. Then the wolf used the black shadow sword art called materialization that caused the senior instructor to be pushed back and the sword to turn into a lump of paper. Yan felt utterly sorry for his brother as they both fought to survive, and there was no grudge involved. He also said that they were the ones who taught them to do that, and it was hard to believe that the instructors were mobilized just from a personal grudge. Zack had his own suspicions about what really happened, so he did not believe Yan's story. Yan then labeled those senior instructors as rebels while giving them a gaze of hatred in his eyes. A continent-wide revolt is now a memory, viewed from Yan's retrospective. The war united a motley collection of rebels under the banner of a revolutionary army. The rebel army, known as the Crimson Revolutionaries, derived their name from the crimson aura emanating from their swords. Blood stained their swords as their dark red aura, fueled by their own blood, has always foreshadowed the bloody outcome of every battle. The Crimson Revolution's fighting style is a refined art passed down from its founder and was potentially even more destructive in the hands of a skilled peer. However, its blood-consuming nature proved to be a significant drawback. The Crimson Revolutionaries countered the technique's blood consumption by absorbing blood themselves. Yen's flashback ends, and he finds himself confronting the rebels' imminent attack. His sharp gaze swept over the rebels as he suspected who was the mastermind pulling the strings. A furious rebel fixed Yan with an angry stare. Their anger continued to escalate as they talked to each other. A grim threat, born of pure fury, escaped his gritted teeth as his face twisted with rage, then promised Yan a slow and agonizing death. The rebel leader directed his subordinates to commence the Crimson Revolution. Yan patiently bided his time, their attack confirming his belief that they were indeed rebels. A magical red aura began to emanate from the rebels' swords. With blinding speed, the rebel then launched his attack against Yan. 3 rebels converged on Yan, their blades flashing as he stood defiant. Facing 3 rank 5 rebels wielding the Crimson Revolution, Yan then knew that he had to fight seriously. Yan starts to unleash the fury of his powers, called a Black Wolf, that has materialized before him. A powerful aura enveloped his hands as his technique took hold. A lethal look in his eyes as Yan watched them, the slash technique fully charged and ready to unleash his power. The rebels stared in disbelief at the power Yan had unleashed. The technique, identical to the instructor commander's dread slash, is a fact that left him reeling and considering Yan's youth. Yan gathered his strength, and his attack was imminent. With hands raised high, Yan then poised himself to strike. As the rebels attacked en masse, Yan then unleashed his most powerful attack. The clash of the slash attack and the rebels resulted in an explosion of darkness. A colossal black slash ripped across the sky, its power briefly visible in all of them before vanishing. The sheer shock of what had transpired left the bloody rebel leaders speechless and immobile. A single swing of Yan's sword sent the rebels sprawling, their blood and lifeless bodies on the ground. Yan's single strike had achieved the impossible, leaving the rebel leader utterly dumbfounded and baffled. The raw power emanating from Yan was a terrifying spectacle that reduced the rebel to a screaming, terrified figure who branded him a monster. Pain twisted his accusations as he confronted Yan with his suspicions of Imperial Tree burning bright. A storm of fury and fear raged within him as he wondered how Yan had uncovered their secret and if their commander was already aware. A fresh wave of agony washed over the rebel as Yan's presence loomed over his cut-off and bloody legs. A life or death decision hung in the air as he withdrew an object from his coat, with his offer of mercy conditional upon the rebel's answers. With a careful hand, he then opened the pendant, and its mysterious insignia left a silent question hanging between him and the rebel. A gasp escaped his lips as his eyes widened and took in the shocking contents of the pendant. Intrigued by the insignia, he then pondered its location within the pendant. In a terrifying display of strength, Yan then snatched him up and held him aloft, and he became a helpless figure in the air. Yan's interrogation was a relentless storm of questions about the insignia, each unanswered query fueling his pursuit of the truth. As the rebel spoke, a sudden grotesque swelling erupted on his face, a silent testament to some unseen force. The sight of his face was a horrifying shock to Yan. The swelling and bumps on his face multiplied as he spoke of the insignia, a disturbing visual accompaniment to his words. A violent explosion ripped through the air and showered the surroundings in blood. The rebel's head had literally blown apart when Yan released him, leaving a headless body and a chilling question of suicide in Yan's mind. Mon and sudden arrival brought a possible explanation that the explosion was the result of a magical restraint placed upon the rebel. She then explained that mentioning a specific word would trigger the magic that caused an explosion and killed the person it was placed on. She also proudly admitted she'd attempted to place the same restriction on Yan. Yan's eyes fell upon the fallen rebel, his lifeless form a stark reminder of the violence. A growing unease settled over him as he realized the insignia linked the commander, the rebels, and even his own parents. He immediately set off, determined to inform the instructor commander of his findings without delay. Moment, and Yan continued discussing the possibility that the instructor commander had sent the rebels. A serious look settled on Yan's face as he reaffirmed his conviction that the commander was not after him. He turned to find the commander behind him and wondered if he'd sent the rebels to kill him. A derisive scoff escaped the commander's lips as he dismissed his suspicions. He argued that a teacher would never instruct their apprentice to murder their own subordinates. The commander recalled that one of his subordinates had been disrespectful recently, and that they needed to be disciplined. With a final farewell, they then prepared for the mission's commencement the following day. Yan remained silent, with his gaze fixed on the commander as the latter instructed him to rest. As he left, the commander then warned Yan that he'd have his hands full with what was coming. At midday, a dense fog hung heavy over the silent pine forest. A powerful steam engine roared, breaking the stillness as a train surged forward with breathtaking speed. That was the Continental train heading towards the northern Beowulf territory. The gentle warmth of the sun contrasted sharply with the fierce wind's howl outside the train window. The speeding train caused the luggage to rattle violently inside. Inside the passenger cabin, a conductor checked the tickets of the passengers, making sure that there were no fare evaders. The train conductor then asked Yan for the ticket. He found the ticket beneath his black coat and asked for a moment. Yan proceeded to give the ticket to the train conductor, and he could now enjoy the ride after his ticket was confirmed. The sun illuminated the brown wood of the train's hall cabin. The tests were finally over. Yan thought he had been sent to the northern Beowulf territory to have a leisure train trip. Then he suddenly doubted such a thing. He was sent to that territory for a reason, and it was an important mission. The trainees that survived the tests had become official Special Forces members, while Yan and others were deployed for their first missions immediately. They were deployed into 4 battlefields. With the Empire as the center, Cassia and 80+ of her followers went to the east, which shares a border with the land of undead and wraiths. when a hand of the undead suddenly emerged behind Cassia, Roman, and 50-plus people under him were deployed to the west, where strange phenomena and monsters appeared as they looked to the dunes of the vast desert in that region. 60-plus members that belonged to the higher ranks were deployed to the stormy south, where pirates and tornadoes appeared. As the high-ranked soldiers found themselves going through the large waves of the ocean, the north, where the lands are frozen, and the borders are shared with the barbarians' territory. This is where Yan and 3 other members were deployed. Only a very small number of people volunteered to be assigned to the north. It is because the coal there is said to be able to freeze even the mightiest dragons. Yan preferred going alone without many people volunteering with him. He looked disgusted by the combination of members. The members consisted of Cruel and Lorena with a knight rank of 6, and Churl, who was a rank 8 knight. Yan thought they would become pains in the ass later on that mission. Cruel asked Lorena if she was following him to get revenge by trampling all over him. Lorena acted like she did not hear any of his words, and Cruel was mad about it. Churl advised Cruel to shut his hurtful mouth towards her. Cruel thought that Cruel was just a maid of Lorena at this point. Then she introduced herself, and said that she'd been working with Lorena ever since the Blade Mountain ranges. After Lorena saved her, she then decided that she would go where Lorena goes, and no one had ever stepped in like that before her. Then Cheryl thought that Lorena was quite annoying by his behavior, and Cruel was still mad after she said that. Yan was also annoyed at everyone, thinking that he wouldn't be able to travel quietly while with them. Cruel Dwight did not actually care about Lorena, and there was only one reason he decided to go north. His intent was to kill Yan. He then gave Yan an aggressive gaze while he was taking a nap. He just hated the sight of Yan from their first meeting, as a memory overwhelmed him of his defeat after battling with him. Yan always got in his way and humiliated Cruel. Now this was Cruel Dwight's chance to kill Yan, since they were now outside the training center's premises. He was starting to be insane again, as he drew his knife slightly visible. His eyes suddenly looked evil while imagining Yan's death. Then Yan looked at him menacingly and knew what Cruel's intentions were. He got scared of Yan's stare, which left him sweating, and got punched by him because of his behavior. The railroad screeches as the train continues to head toward the north. Lorena stares outside the train's window without saying a word, and she sees her hometown, thinking that she never thought she'd go back this soon. She then remembers how she got exiled from her hometown, and how she left the territory without even turning back a single time. Lorena has not heard anything about her brother, and she cannot go back like this after she left her hometown. She was trying to put herself back together and fighting back her tears. Yan notices that Lorena has not spoken a word all this time. He guesses that she is not happy about going back to her hometown. Yanon has shocking news for Lorena, hoping that even she will get surprised as he stares at her with a smile. They will reach Avalon soon, as the sunlight disappears inside the passenger cabin of the train. Yanon suddenly hears a voice in the back, leaving him bewildered. It turns out that the Imperial Advisor really wants to drop by, even though Avalon is near. Another man confronted the advisor, stating that the Crown Prince will be disappointed, and he cannot just drop by while the train is moving. According to the Imperial Advisor, the Crown Prince's academic studies are already finished, and there is nothing else to teach him anyway. That's why he chose to go north. That old man is actually Imperial Advisor Hugo. He is the teacher of the Emperor and the Crown Prince, and he is also known as the brains of the Empire. Yan is glad to meet such a noble individual. He was a commander who knew no magic or martial arts, but he still became a respected great person of the Empire with academics and philosophy. Even the Emperor recognized him and bestowed the title account to him, who was a commander back then. He was magnificent even in his last moments, befitting the titles given to him in Yan's past life. The Imperial Advisor kept advising the Emperor while bleeding and crying for 3 days and nights. Due to his loyalty to the Empire, he then gets rewarded by the Emperor by giving him death. However, that will only happen later in the future, but not for now. The conductor apologized for causing discomfort to the Imperial Advisor. Then the train management prepared a private room only for the brains of the Empire himself. Yan notices their exchange but stays silent. As both of them head toward the private room, Yan stares quietly and notices a hand signal done by the conductor. It's a sign language meant to be sent to other people on his team. The message he reads is that the train is passing through a tunnel, and when that happens, it is time for them to assassinate the Imperial Advisor. Yan smirks as he has been waiting for this opportunity to come for so long. He then recalls the Advisor's personality, which is that he is loyal to the people of the Empire and not the Emperor. and so the Revolutionary Army deemed him a nuisance to their plans, so they decided to kidnap him. He knew that these people were the Revolutionary Army since the sign language they performed is done only by the Revolutionary Army. The conductor then announces that they would be making a brief stop in the tunnel due to a technical issue, and prompts the passengers to remain in their seats. Yan has been waiting for this chance to rescue the Imperial Advisor and build a connection with him. He then calls attention to his subordinates and states that he will be conversing via frequency transmission from now on. He then explains that the train has been taken over by the enemy, and in an hour's time, when the train enters the tunnel, the enemies will ambush one of the VIPs on the train. He adds that the enemies are disguised as train crew members, and that there is also a chance that some of them are disguised as passengers. Crew will interrupt Lab's plans, saying that they haven't even received their mission yet, so there is no reason for him to listen to his plan. Due to that, he gets punched in the face, which promptly silences him. And so Yan continues on and asks if anybody else has a question. Lorena states that it is hard for her to suddenly take in everything he has just said, so she asks where he got his information. Yan explains that the commander had instructed him privately about it, which is also the reason he chose to go to the north. Lorena's to believe his explanation, so she now asks if he knows who their enemies are. Yan tells them that he doesn't know their exact numbers, but he knows who they are. He reveals that they are part of the Revolutionary Army, which sends Lorena into shock, possibly hinting that she has unfinished business with the bunch. Time passes, and the snowstorm gets stronger by the second. The train continues to move through despite the strong snow. Inside the train, the guards are talking about the passengers they have put to sleep with their sleeping incense. So now they can slowly take over the carriage. One of the guards worries that there are special forces among the passengers. But suddenly, a voice from behind the guard asks why crew members need weapons, which sends a chill down his spine. Lorena then attacks the enemy from above with her sword as the enemy panics, wondering who she was. Her attack manages to cut the enemy's sword in half and strike his torso. The other enemies are horrified at the sight of their comrade being attacked. They also realize that the wounds she inflicted have now frozen up and dealt their comrade a great deal of pain. The enemies see that her sword is bursting with cold energy, which leads them to a conclusion. They realize that their enemy is part of the Beowulf family. The opposing forces stand off inside the train. Lorena states that Yan was indeed right, to which the enemy cuts her off, saying that he knew there were special forces on the train, but he didn't expect that there would be a Beowulf. They then get excited at prospect of getting a promotion if they manage to get the bounty on her head. Lorena's face darkens with anger as she questions them. She asks whether they know what the Revolutionary Army has done to the Beowulf family. Lorena tells them that the reason her brother disappeared is due to him leaving their hometown to join the special forces in order to hunt down the Revolutionary Army. But now they have shown themselves in front of her, which brought her great joy now that she can enact her revenge on them. Though the enemy doesn't seem to be threatened and simply laughs as their swords glow with an ominous red aura. The enemy then returns her question back to her and asks her if she knows what her family has done. He furiously explains that her family had been wallowing in their riches, while his family survived by eating rotten trash despite her family causing their situation. Lorene responds while preparing her attack, saying that her household walks the path of protecting the North and the Empire, and if they make her family an enemy, then that means they are the enemy themselves that threaten the North and the Empire. The glass surrounding the train cart all shatters following her devastating attack. Reinforcements try to reach the cart where Lorena is fighting, but something stops them in their way. Cruel is the one blocking their way, who also states that he is looking for someone to unleash his anger on. Their fight then starts under the strong blizzard outside the cart. The aftermath of their fight as the enemies are now amputated. Cruel also states that he likes the feel of the sword he took from the Imperial Vault. He is also refreshed after seeing some blood after such a long time, given how he is a blood-crazed maniac. His eyes then sharpen as he proclaims that Yan will be next on his list. Outside the train, Momon informs Yan that she senses mana from the next carriage. She also tells him that he shouldn't call her for useless stuff, like detecting enemies' mana. Yan responds saying that she has to earn her keep. As Momon floats above him in the air, he then starts his operation to save the Imperial Advisor from the Revolutionary Army. Our video ends here. If you like it, subscribe to the channel. See you next time. Bye-bye.